At Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions.
And welcome, everybody. So I messed up and didn't get the show at all ready, so Tony's doing stuff. He'll be here in a bit, I think. Welcome, everybody, though. It's the 40th anniversary of Red Dawn, so we're going to do some Red Dawn trivia here while we get ready, while we wait for Tony to show up. Mike White is saying, made my hotel reservations for the Gun Rights Policy Conference this morning. Right on. I wonder if I should make mine already. I asked for some questions, and I got a couple. So we'll put the first one up here. Let's see, I can put them up on the screen, I guess. Which character becomes more ruthless? This is in the movie Red Dawn. Which character becomes more ruthless as the movie progresses, even carving notches into his rifle for every kill? Correct answers only, no multiple choices. This is, after all, Red Dawn. You should know the answers to this stuff. This is basic knowledge. Basic knowledge. So we'll call that one question number 1. So, see if anybody's got this one. That may or may not be the actor, but what character? This is important. This is the character. This is the main character of the movie. The movie's about. Krabby Turtle shot his first AK this week. Really? That's very cool. What kind? Do we see it? Yep, Robert. So the next question, and so DJ gets that one. There's a bunch of people watching. Everybody's allowed to answer. Let's see. This one's pretty easy. What does Jed's father say to him and Matt when he's in the re-education camp? What does Jed's father say to him and Matt when they're at the re-education camp? So I've been to the rocks where Robert got killed, and I have been to the movie theater where he says, "Avenge me." There's Tony. Welcome.
Avenge me, son. Avenge me.
Yep. I got a bunch here, so I'm going to just give Tony the questions, and if people out there can help Tony, then How many of these you want to do? I've got way more than we need.
Oh,
How
I'm
many
good to
things?
go, man.
All right. So,
Let's run.
what's the name of the fictional town where Red Dawn takes place?
Ah, all right. It's in Colorado, right?
It is, and it doesn't exist because it was filmed in New Mexico, but then there is no town in Colorado with the actual name that they used. They say it a bunch of times in the movie, but it's not something. I'd say you have to be pretty high level to just know that one off the top of your head.
Oh, I'm not high level enough then. I need a lifeline, fellas. Come on.
Okay, here we go. So then the next question is, who directed the movie? Zippy's got it for you. Calumet. Well played. Calumet.
Wow, Calumet. Nice. John Woo.
No, the first name's right. He did, let's see.
John Carpenter?
No. It's that era, though. He did, I'm trying to think of all his movies. His big movie that he did was, besides this one, he wrote Dirty Harry, and then, oh man, I can't think. Did he work on Apocalypse Now with them guys? So he went to school with Spielberg and everybody. I've never met him.
Silverman?
Nope, John Milius.
Maybe I suck at this.
The thing about Milius is that he was a cool dude because he hung out with Spielberg and them. They went to film school together. And when whoever was making Dirty Harry, and I think it was Apocalypse Now, if I'm remembering right, like when they were making those movies, he came in to help with the screenwriting because his thing was being able to take the concept and turn it into a good screenplay or whatever, the words to make it a movie. The other guys were good at directing. He liked directing, but he never got his own. Oh, he did Big Wednesday. He did a surf movie called Big Wednesday. That's what the really big one is that he worked on, and or one of his claims to fame. So anyway, his Red Dawn was his big movie, and he kind of played so that he could get to do his own movie. When he got to do his own movie, it was Red Dawn. It was such a big movie. It was first PG-13 because it was because of the violence, I guess. And then there was a bunch of stuff about the movie that essentially Hollywood didn't like. So you don't really hear about Milius after this. He did some stuff, but he definitely got kind of shit canned in Hollywood because he wrote a movie that was pro-American at a time when it was cool to hate everything in the United States. Or at least Hollywood. I didn't realize.
Well, Hollywood hadn't had because Hollywood is out of touch. Hollywood's pushing their own agenda. Well, Americans didn't really hate America when that movie came out. It was post-Vietnam, but it was wow.
We were getting used to it. Was after Vietnam, but we had also given the vets time to we were laying off the vets. At first, everybody was hating the vets, and the vets were worthless. And then Rambo comes out, and the early '80s, the other war movies, Platoon and stuff. And that was what are they saying? That was the healing. That was the time when they started letting veterans. Essentially, everybody didn't give a shit about veterans. They thought of veterans as killers. They were like, "Oh, veterans are a bunch of people going over there to kill," and all this. And by the '80s, I think essentially everybody started to lay off of them, give them a break, and the movie started to portray that a little bit. I don't know. Maybe that's just my
because my take on it's totally my perception is different coming from the South because there was never really that dislike of veterans where I'm from. What I felt, and this is just me because it's going for what we've seen. Usually the protesters of the war that said horrible things to veterans were kids or just freaking idiots, who consume all the news. But by the '80s, well, the war had been over for over a decade. The ones that were in high school and college saying stupid stuff, even slightly older, grew up and had to get jobs, have kids, and do stuff constructive. And they realized, man, I was really an uneducated a-hole, and I should shut up. That's when I feel with many of them. It was just a phase they were going through while the country was going through something, and it was over. It'd been over a decade. It'd been about 15 to 20 years, right? I mean, by the time mid-'80s.
Yeah, and at that pace, that was like a long time back then. It wasn't like, I think the world moved moves at a different pace now, right? With everything being connected. So back then, that was some time. Like that was
That was
healing.
time. And again, everything wasn't rehashed and brought up every week. I mean, it was on the news, it was off the news, it was different things. We learned about Agent Orange and all the devastation that was following up for, and those fights were going on. Like we moved on, and Hollywood hadn't because they still had a their agenda and they were their echo chamber. And here's this guy going, yeah, Americans come together during crisis and they do what they have to do, and we kicked ass. And then the Gulf War happened, and all of America was like, "Yeah, you can shut up with that." For the most part, most Americans were like, "Yeah, you can shut up with that." And when people came back from the Gulf, it was a totally different attitude towards vets and America in general, comparatively to the Vietnam era, at the end of the Vietnam era.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of capitalize. Is that the way to say it? Like there was a lot of messaging
Hmm.
that could be controlled. Like if somebody wanted to own the narrative and say this was how Vietnam was, then everybody kind of thought that's how Vietnam was. You know, you read it in the
Yep.
encyclopedia, you saw it on the news. What else did you have? Maybe word of mouth, but you know how many
Yep.
people can tell you about the real deal?
And the books didn't start coming out until the late '80s, mid to late '80s, because those were the ones I think both you and I consumed of Vietnam veterans writing about their experience.
And it wasn't at that point. It didn't have to be I'm defending myself. It could be relaying my experiences, and some of that. Well,
Yep.
at least the ones I'm thinking of, like Mercinko and I read a lot of
Hmm.
Army ones, not just Navy stuff, but Pathfinders
Carlos
and
Hathcock.
yeah,
Carlos
exactly. Sniper.
Hathcock.
These were explaining their experiences and their jobs, which in a lot of ways was neat because the jobs that existed then were different than the jobs from World War II, and really we didn't have a lot of insight to the military reality of the
Hmm.
military, even though it still was decades old. It was at least some insight. So yeah, I think a lot of us were eating that up because
Yep.
it existed. There was nothing like that before.
Nope.
But that was, I guess, we're talking about the mindset of the country in 1984. I guess I
Hmm.
think 1976, which is a couple of years earlier, but still like 1976 was the bicentennial of the country. And
Yep.
that was a blowout. Like the entire country was patriotic. I think we were really in good places. We were economically, I think, getting a kick in the nuts, I think, but I was a little kid, so I don't really remember. But I do
Yep.
remember just the echo of it. Like you'd still see stuff from the 1776 or I mean the 1976 stuff. It wasn't quite like the World's Fairs. Like some of the, I don't know, you've been to any of the fairgrounds for any of the state fair or the World's Fairs. Like there's things
Never
when
the
they do
worst
like
version.
fair or like Olympics. I think I went to one in Tennessee. There's stuff in Chicago. There's stuff in like a lot of the cities, and they turn it into other things. It's like museums and stuff now, or like just a big park or something. But just back in the day, they'd have these big World's Fairs and stuff. So you'd have some of the remnants of that. Um, Okay, so getting back to Red Dawn, though, I guess we were just kind of setting the
Hmm.
scene for what it was like in 1984. I guess I was saying that, we were still kind of slow and we were just coming off of like a lot of patriotism. There wasn't a lot of this division that I don't even know if there is division anymore, honestly. Or today, as much as it would be suggested, because we get so much of our data from these little devices and people don't even know what antivirus does, or how a software shell works or something, like people don't care about the nuts and bolts. So they don't realize how easy it is to manipulate. We'll be convinced that the voting is wrong or something. It's either
Hmm.
perfect or it's wrong because computers, right? It's either perfect because of computers or it has to be, messed up because of computers. But it's, the computers is the boogeyman that we get to throw everything off to. So at the same time, people aren't paying attention that like it's not like the country is half and half. Like half of them love one color, half of them like the other color, and they hate each other. It's more like what a quarter of the country, a third of the country gives a shit about these colors and won't shut up about it, and they get catered to in the media. And the
Hmm.
silent 60% of the country doesn't give a shit and is sick of this already. And that's the problem, is mobilizing that 60%. And nobody's catering to that, right? Who's out there saying to that silent 60%? Why don't we just all turn purple or shut them up, or not purple, but whatever the opposite, orange or something, the opposite of purple or whatever the opposite of purple is, and just shut them up, because it's really, I think, a dwindling minority of people that are the most worried about politics and what color their politicians are. I mean, red and green, red and blue, when I'm saying color, but or what flavor their politicians are. I don't know. Do you know many people that are really worried about that shit anymore? I mean, it's almost
really worried about.
Like if the Republicans have to win, I don't care who it is, or the Democrats have to win, I don't care who it is. I mean, there's definitely people that hate Trump, but I don't think there's too many.
I hear it.
I hate Democrats, so I have to vote for any Republican.
Sadly, I know people like that because of the things I've done. I work for the state, so I get a lot of that from people on both sides of that. I hate it. I think it's because of just the job I work. It's hilarious. Like some are in this camp 100% solid, and others are in this camp. And the 60% in the middle just don't even bring it up because it just brings eye rolls. It's like, oh God, you got him started, or you got her started. It's like, thanks a lot. Because I usually do that for my own entertainment, throw a grenade in the room and then walk out. Hey, what about that Kamala, huh? Think she's still black? All right, see you guys tomorrow. And I just walk out. And there goes an argument for the next 5 hours at work because you got nowhere to go. You're stuck on your unit.
I know, but I hear you.
You're stuck in a booth with another dude ranting.
I can only assume that you either got to sit there in silence or sit there bickering about something, right? Like, I'm sure that at least it's something to bicker about.
It is. But yeah, you're right. You got the percentage right. But the ones that are loud mouths are loud mouths. And sometimes I listen and sometimes I just have to go, you've drank all the Kool-Aid from your side. Bye.
I'm going to go back to the things here. So we're going to just do gun questions from Red Dawn today. Why not? I'll go look and see if there's an imminent, like an important one from the actual list. But the next question is, this one should be easier. Which two superpowers are portrayed as allies in the invasion of the U.S. in the movie? Who's joining up against us in the movie?
Oh, against us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody's on our side. Yep, that's right. That's essentially in the beginning credits. That's what they explain, is that the world kind of goes to shit. Cuba's like, fuck the United States, and Russia's like, yeah, go get them. Here's some resources, but it's mostly Cuba, which makes no sense, right? Cuba. How many people live in Cuba? But
almost as much sense as North Korea invading.
Yes. I mean, North Korea makes a little more sense because it's like they're kind of mobilized. I don't think Cuba's even, they don't care. Like, they're down there dealing with their own issues. Like, the last thing they're worried about is spending all their money on a military. But in this Red Dawn reality of 1984, I mean, shit, I don't know how Cuba was in 1984, honestly. But essentially, though, what it was there was some kind of famine or something. Like, something really screwed up the country, or maybe all the countries, and we were just vulnerable. And that's when Cuba seen an opportunity, came up and chopped the country in half through the Great Plains. So you all are to blame: Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, Nebraska, and the Dakotas, because that's, I'm pretty sure what happened in the movie is they came up and chopped through them. And once they started going west into Colorado, hit the mountains and the Wolverines. So, and people like the Wolverines because I'm pretty sure the movie kind of lets you know that while they were the one maybe that was focused on the most, there was lots of that happening. But that's sort of what happens in the movie. I'm only bringing that up a little bit because just talking about it, and I posted a bunch of stuff like earlier this morning about the 40th anniversary. I just realized that it's, it lines up. It's an actual round number anniversary this year instead of just, I usually try to say something about it on the anniversary. Anyway, so I was posting a bunch of stuff and somebody said, aren't we already in Red Dawn? And I'm like, no, we're not even anywhere near Red Dawn. Like, Red Dawn is, we get so weak that we fall apart, and then, or something happens to us where we can't feed ourselves or something. And then a tiny little country comes in and knocks the crap out of us. The rest of the world, because there's no United States, goes into nuclear wars. So they can't and wouldn't have the resources to help us anyway, but they're all worried about their own skirmishes. And essentially the world is at World War III level, and everything's skirmishes everywhere. And people are, people don't realize that they say World War III casually, like, oh, if I get inconvenienced, or if, the stuff isn't on the shelves at every single store like we're used to, like we're accustomed to and like we take for granted, then we must be at World War III. No, World War III is where international political boundaries don't exist anymore, and people are now reclaiming chunks of the planet in new political systems. And that's when millions of people get rounded up and slaughtered, and you know what I mean? They use convention, back in the day, they'd use conventional fights for that, because then you could take the houses and the cities and stuff, you know, keep the people who are willing to surrender, you kill everybody else, and then you swarm it with, you know, you're the people who won. You know, that's how it used to be done back in the old days. We didn't really do that, so people don't think about that. At least I don't think what Americans think about that, because we don't take stuff. You know, we don't fight and take it. You know, we don't take a chunk of the planet anymore and like go move there. But that's what we're talking about with World War III. Like, people are unsatisfied or whatever, and they're going to take what they've taken. So anyway, I don't think we're anywhere near Red Dawn. I mean, I'm assuming you're with me on that one. Yeah. But
I'm
like
totally with you, bro.
Could it get there? That's the question. Like, sure, we're not there, but could it get to a World War? Could it get to a Red Dawn scenario, do you think, in 2025 or 2024, whatever you'd say, like in the current days?
Oh, it could. Understand the, what is it? The thin veneer of civility is thin. Bad things can happen and they can cascade. It doesn't. It's like not one big thing. It's a combination of things that causes collapses. It causes alliances, and things can happen. How quickly? Venezuela. Tell me. 2 years, 4 years. Yeah, it can all go downhill quickly, because we saw it with the country of Venezuela.
Dude, I was just thinking about that. They go, you know, presidential candidate was shot at, and nobody's saying nothing about it. My first reaction is dozens of political people get shot at in Mexico, like 100 miles south of here, in a country of 100 miles south of where I'm sitting. Happens every single year. It's getting worse, but it happens every single year. People die, and dozens of them get wounded in political assassination attempts. And we never even talk about that. And that happens constantly. So I can understand how a political assassination could be not number one news. We don't have to be crippled by the acts of an insane person. I don't remember what it was like during Reagan, but I'm sure it was the only thing that was on forever, like whole 2020 news about it and stuff. So I'm sure that our parents are used to like the world stopping when something happens to us. But I can understand in a big, you know, with a more generations of more globally focused and more, you know, big picture focused, and they're not worried about whatever the media is feeding them. I could see the news cycle not paying attention. But dang it, what was I saying about that? No, I'm trying to read something else over here, and I totally thought we lost where I was at with.
I agree with you. Here's one, just talking about what you just said, and it can change things. Mexico, right next door, 100 miles from you, gets really bad. Revolution, people are being killed. First thing that happens is actual large numbers of immigrants, as not refugees, come pouring in. At the same time, we're dealing with our own economics, and that leads to other countries falling into chaos in South and Central America. And now we have tens of millions of people coming this way instead of 10 million over a 4-year period of time. All of a sudden, that throws us in an economical tailspin. That's something that can happen, and it can happen relatively quickly.
That's an interesting one. And that would happen slowly, though. It's not like, even, I mean, there's been waves. You know, I don't know how many physically could come, but you could start putting in like cruise ships go down to help people get out of a bad situation. Oh, I think one of the things I was saying is we're not even paying attention. That's what I was getting at, is everybody's worried about the president being attempted assassination, being swept off the news. What I was saying all that was to say, what about Venezuela? All we hear about now is stupid Olympics. Everybody doesn't care about the Olympics because they're weird. Oh, I don't like the Olympics because of this. I hate the Olympics because of that. The breakdancing thing, holy shit, right? So we don't care about the Olympics, but we also won't shut up about the Olympics. The Turkish guy with his pistol, right? Like, come on, we're hearing about the Olympics. And I guess my grandma liked the Olympics, so I'm aware of them. It's like I don't hate them or anything, but I also
Mm-hmm.
kind of hate them because my grandma spent every waking hour watching the Olympics when I was a little kid, and I just hate sports, and I couldn't understand watching Europe sports, or I just don't like international shit, period. So I just couldn't understand it. But I do understand somebody who's like, I've known people in the Olympics casually. It's not like I know people who have good friends or anything, but I understand it, like a life of devotion to something, and you're going to represent your country, and you're going to be like immortally known, because of your whatever achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I totally get that. And then the elation of a couple of people, right? And then the disappointment that comes with all that, and that the character building, like to well, maybe not. Well, I'm sure the Australian lady's going to get some character building, but somebody truly tries really hard and like just doesn't make it because somebody's just faster than them or slower or whatever the deal is. That's just, I can understand all that. Like, I get the significance of the Olympics and shit, but I also don't give a shit about the Olympics because it's just sports, and I think of it as like to some extent the blood or the, what do they call it, the bread and circus garbage. But so either way, I'm okay with the Olympics, but I also could care less. But it's again, we're all over X. I hate the Olympics. I hate the Olympics. I hate the Olympics.
Oh,
and
really?
Then it's like, Olympics. Okay. But then what about Venezuela? That's what I'm still getting at. What the fuck happened to news about Venezuela? You think Venezuela's done? Is it like over now? Like, I'll bet you like, come on. Like, and this is, I mean, you were bringing it up because it's so much more poignant or like relevant to what we've got going on in this country. Like, I don't give a shit about what's going on with the Olympics, honestly, like I just said, but I do really care about what's going on in Venezuela, since one, you could walk to there literally, right? And two, you could get there in a boat even faster. But yeah, like we should be way more concerned about this when they're on the other side of the Gulf of Mexico, right? Like, it's like essentially Florida. If you look at the other side of the Gulf of Mexico, it's like is it the Florida and Alabama of, like the other side of the Gulf of Mexico? If the Gulf of Mexico is a big, circle, like if Florida is at like 2 o'clock on a clock, like Venezuela is like at the 6 o'clock position. So they're literally sharing with us.
Understand, most Americans can't find their ass on a map, much less Venezuela on a map. The other thing is, no one looks in X is the echo chamber. So whatever the heck your algorithm shows you, that's what you see, because I haven't heard any, excuse me. One, I rarely pay attention to what's on X. I really do. If you can see from my feed, it's just me talking about gun stuff. I don't get involved in the other crap for the most part. Every now and again, something trips me hard, like Kamala talking about making collard greens in her bathtub. I had to post something about that because it was so ridiculous. But outside of that, haven't seen anything about the Olympics either way. Like, that's the crazy part. I haven't seen anything on my feed about the Olympics either way. I personally love the Olympics because it kind of throws a bunch of crap out of the window, and then it's just you're rooting for your country, or you're caught up in the human interest story, or it just looks cool. I mean, that's the way I always looked at it as a kid, because we didn't really have a choice. The Olympics were on, that's what you were watching.
Yeah.
We had 3 channels. So that's how I grew up. And it wasn't about the sport, because like, I care about equestrian events or diving, but that's what it was. And then they made certain people became heroes, of the Olympics. So cool, is what it is. But yeah, we have real things going on, but most people only pay attention to the talking head that they like. And if it's not on the news, it doesn't exist. Like, you haven't heard anything about Haiti. Haiti's close, and they have no government.
And they've been there for a long time, suffering longer than Venezuela's been under strife, from what I understand.
And we've invaded Haiti 5 times in the last 100 years. I mean, Marine Corps history, we've gone into Haiti 1930s, 1960s, 1990s, and in the 2000s. We've sent troops, mostly Marine Corps, every freaking time. Hell, we stayed there for 20 years between World War I going into World War II. Chesty Puller pretty much grew up in Haiti. His fighting and his reputation came from fights in Haiti and Nicaragua.
Is this because of stuff that was going on in Haiti, like on Haiti,
Mhm.
or was it because where Haiti is on the planet and they can hang out and be ready for fighting with
Because,
Europe?
because of the American companies that were in Haiti, of course, that's what we did. The Banana Wars, that whole time period.
Oh, that kind of thing.
We were, yep. So most Americans don't know any of that. And if your news doesn't do what they call a deep dive, which anybody else would call a YouTube video, but the news does a half an hour deep dive on it, and people think they're educated on the subject. Unless the news does that, most people don't know because history was something you took a test on and immediately forgot what happened if it doesn't concern you.
Well, and the way they present history classes, it's not like you want to. Well, I guess once you're in college, it's different because I'm sure that they have specific things. But in little kids' school or high school or whatever, it's you're going to learn everything there is in history, or like whatever part we're going to teach you, which is, I guess, always at an issue, right? Who's going to decide what? But
Yep.
anyway, they're going to force feed you. Here's all this history. You don't have time to absorb it. All you get time to do is maybe memorize it if you're a good brain, and if you don't, it's just memorizing it long
Hmm.
enough to pass a test, which is me. Like I don't anything that I didn't have to retain in high school or any school before that. I guess I did. Just in one ear out the other. As long as I had to have it, I had it in my head. But what does that really do for you? As opposed
Hmm.
to, I don't know, like what are you interested in? What's a movie that you saw or something, and let's go pursue that. Let's go see what like you say, like the in-depth,
Yep. See,
focus
for
on that.
me, the history of Haiti and the Banana Wars was something I latched on to as a kid because of how the U.S. military handled it. Because I was that gun kid slash military history, American military history kid for the most part, and that was where we developed anti-insurgency warfare. Again, Haiti, Nicaragua, the Banana Wars, and controlling the population, even going into the wars in the Philippines. So I'm talking about starting in 1899. That's when we got involved in our kind of reverse Red Dawn era, where we had to fight insurgents and we developed counterinsurgency warfare in Haiti, in Nicaragua, in the Philippines, in Puerto Rico, in Cuba. Like we were fighting these people. And that's where we learned it. And then the lessons we learned between 1899 and 1941, we immediately threw away and forgot by 1965 because it was a total different generation of soldiers then. And that institutional learning was gone. You replaced everybody. The dudes that fought in those wars were replaced by World War II veterans that did not fight unconventional warfare. Most of the guys that got promoted and were running the military were all conventional warriors for the most part. And the few that were left were the ones that developed the special forces, the ones that worked on getting ranger training in Vietnam, or the ones that set up SOG. All those dudes were the ones that were unconventional dudes in the Second World War. And that all took a backseat to the big green machine from 1965 until the end of the Vietnam War. Actually, no, prior to 1965 until the end of the Vietnam War.
And that's a lot of when you would listen to these shows and stuff. It's essentially the war's over. Let's quit funding, strip everything down. Like what do they call it? Like whatever you need to keep things, from rusting out or from falling apart. But no
Mhm.
real strategic thinking. I don't think we ever given generals a chance to say, okay, maybe Eisenhower would have done this. I don't know, because he was a general, but somebody who knows what they're doing would have told the generals or whoever I'm just saying generals, but whoever the chiefs of staff are that make all the decisions, like, hey, wind this
Mhm.
stuff down smartly, get exactly what you're saying, all the stuff that we didn't do right. Like, oh, we had all these specialty units. Yeah, let's just fire everybody, tell them to go home and
Yep.
live their lives now. And then, oh, we need them again? Oh, shit. Well, let's just start from scratch. We didn't quite do that, but
Every
a lot of
every time, every time we did that, snipers. We had snipers, sharpshooters. What do you call them? DMR, marksman, designating marksman. Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War One, World War Two. Each time we just got rid of them, got rid of them, got rid of them. Going into Vietnam, no sniper program. Post Vietnam, all of a sudden we kept special forces and we developed them. We kept sniper teams. We developed them. We kept the Rangers and developed them in something new. But pretty much at post every war, we got rid of every specialty unit we had every single time.
We did get a real question out that went over and looked because we do have the website, and if you want to ask a question, you definitely can. I'll eventually get in there and set it back up so that when we answer these things, they'll actually be on the website, maybe. But excuse me, I got the hiccups. It's not necessarily a big priority. But the question is up on screen: what size hex wrench does the Crimson Trace? It doesn't really matter which model because they're all the same. Used to adjust windage and elevation. I mean, it's not something I knew off the top of my head. I just looked it up, but Crimson Chase sells them, and they tell you it's the 0.05 inch. So, and they also have one that is a 0.28/0.29. So that's probably the one for windage and elevation. I think actually the 0.505. I don't know. I'd have to look at them, but I think the smaller one is the one that's for windage and elevation. So if you get yourself a set that has a 0.28 and a 0.49, you've got the two that Crimson Trace uses on everything. But yeah, they use a really tiny hex wrench or an Allen wrench to adjust the left and right on the rubber laser grips. And like I said, it's the same one all the time. So you can get a little key ring thing that has a hex sticking out of it, and I've seen just little ones included in a little baggie. And actually, if you go to a gun shop and ask them, I'll bet you they got 15 of them in a drawer, and they just give you one because they have 15 of them in a drawer from people that have had them install their sites or, brought in sites that were used and stuff. At least every shop I've ever rummaged around in has had a drawer with that kind of stuff. It's kind of like if you need a choke or one of them things that, what do they call that thing that knocks off the 3 rounds or whatever in your shotgun so you can go hunting with it? That
a plug?
Yeah, man, it's been such a long time. Yeah, the plug, those kind of things. A lot of times you can just ask the gun shop because they'll just have a drawer full of that stuff or a box full of that stuff. Wood says that Haiti was the only successful slave revolt in history. Is that real?
It was, well, of an entire country getting overthrown and then throwing the French out. Yep, that happened, and that was the first one.
I'm going to go look at a map and see, because I don't really pay attention to the islands. I don't live on the East Coast, so I never, every time I look at Bermuda, I'm like, wow, that's way further out than I picture, because I always picture everything cluttered around Florida. Is Haiti the one that's way the heck out in the middle of nowhere? I'm looking at it.
I mean, Haiti's connected to DR, and I don't think that's in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, okay, that's that one. Okay. Like I say, I don't have them in my head. I have to go look at a map all the time. Okay, I was thinking
the way I looked at it,
out in the middle of nowhere. Yep. Okay, or there's one that's even further out in the middle of the ocean that's like right in the middle of the ocean or something. But okay, but the thing about Haiti is it's big. And so the other thing I hear about all the time is when the storms go through and just kick the shit out of Haiti. So when that happens, does the Dominican Republic side also have issues? And they just handle it?
Well,
they hang?
I think, don't they have a mountain between Haiti
kind of
and DR?
Yeah, like that. Like the islands connect or split by a big mountain.
So that may slow some winds down or break it up. But I mean, I can't imagine that it's going to be too much different. Yeah.
I see. So like typically even the weather might hit the two sides differently. Yeah, Puerto Rico's over there by the Dominican, and you don't hear about Puerto Rico getting hit anywhere as much as you hear about Haiti. And I guess we don't hear about when Cuba gets hit because nobody goes to Cuba really, right? Can we go to Cuba now?
Through Canada.
Yeah. So I think we probably hear about where cruises are going and that kind of thing. So that's where pretty much all the cruises goes down to those islands. Every time I look at them, I don't know. I just don't keep them in my head. So I'm always, I guess I had Venezuela way off too. I was thinking where Yucatan was Venezuela, but Venezuela is pretty far away. You could still walk there, except for that Panama Canal, and the other, what is it, another big giant jungle in Medellin. Technically, though, you could walk there. You could take a boat there for sure. Okay, I'll quit looking at the map. So that was the only question we had out there, though.
Invited to go.
Whoa! I had a ton of Red Dawn ones here, but I was also gonna say I just saw something. I guess I
Good afternoon, everybody.
I clicked on my Instagram, so it's flipped. I'm trying to see if I can scroll down to what I was looking at. Do you follow Havoc? How do I turn it?
Do I follow who?
Havoc Journal. They're a military channel.
Havoc Journal? No.
Okay. On Instagram. I'd follow them from a while back, and they'll just, it's not quite bro. What do they call that? Like vet bro or whatever. It's none of that. It's just more basically keeping attention to stuff or keeping people aware of stuff. They posted something here about the Vance and I forget his name, Waltz, Stolen Valor thing. Have you paid attention to that at all?
All right, the only thing I heard was the clarification of his military service record. So I have no idea what the stolen valor that he said is, outside of I carried a assault rifle in the war or something like that. He was never deployed to a war. But
right, as far as I can tell, that's the only thing that whole thing is on. Yeah.
Yeah, he was never deployed to a war. When he was activated, they guarded a base outside the war zone to replace active duty military units. So their job was to guard a base in a country that didn't have warfare going on in it. He exaggerated or lied, whichever way you want to put it. It is what it is. Do I think it's the worst stolen valor ever? No. Truthfully, I say quit falling for the controversial stuff and just go for his policies. Because again, I have friends that are there. I've been on podcasts about Minnesota and their Second Amendment fight with activists in Minnesota about the Second Amendment fight, and he sucks. And you can attack those policies all day, just like you can with Kamala. And you don't have to talk about who she slept with or any other this, or even her race controversy. You can leave all that alone and just go with the things they've done because they have a track record. He was a governor, she was a senator, and has been a vice president. Let's talk about that and leave the corny stuff alone. But that's not what people are doing because internet and clicks and views and television, same thing. Controversy and it what do you call that? Distracts away from the fact that kind of when you look at policy, both of them fall apart because you're going against a guy who was president for 4 years, and you could look at what he did already. It's like, did you like what happened in the last 4 years? Or did you like the 4 years before that? It's really just a yes or no question.
I found the thing, and the thing I wanted to say, it's like I said, it's a guy that I think it's a guy, maybe it's a couple of people that just kind of repost or poke military information topics like this when they come up, just to offer another perspective, essentially. So this one starts off with blah blah blah, and then there's a quote. It says, a longtime friend of mine published an article about veteran suicide in the journal in which she opined, the only people who understand veterans are other veterans, and they all hate each other. And I think that's the part that, right? Like, it's 100% true. And I think you could apply this to anything. Like, got Woods out there, he's a teacher. I'll bet you the same thing. Like, the only people that understand what teachers are going through are each other. And they've got divisions, right? Truck drivers, I don't know what else we got out here. People that are into critters, right, that help out with critters. They've got, like, when I had the Doberman, like, I'll challenge anybody that I'm a good dog owner, but I'll still chop ears off of Dobermans. I don't care. Like, I think that's cool, and I don't think it bothers the Dobermans at all. I lived a whole life with a Doberman, and it did not care that its ears were chopped, and I think it liked that its ears were cool. Same with the tails on dogs. But I bet you, I know people that will challenge me on that, right? So but the only people that know are the people that are going to pay attention to this stuff. But veterans are a whole different thing because, well, for lots of reasons, right? So, but I think that's one of those. I guess what I'm getting at is I'm just riffing here, but the quote: the only people that understand veterans are other veterans, and they all hate each other. I mean, I'm going to apply it to guns here, but it works for veterans because we're kind of talking about suicide when we talk about veterans and stuff, or at least we often do. But this is one of the things they use against us, and everybody wins here. That's should be doing something by, they win by not doing anything. The VA, the organizations and stuff that could coordinate, but also repair and I think coordinate's a good word. But I see over the last, I don't know, number of years, and I don't care because it's not my fight anymore, right? Like I can't have any idea of what it's like to be in the global war on terror. I was long gone from all that shit when it even started. But I can still have an educated opinion looking at it, right? And what we've got now is an organization pops up for, this unit, not unit, but let's say the Rangers, or let's say the Marine Recon, or let's say, something like just individual sectors that have been neglected, and maybe a sector that has like maybe divers, maybe if they have to deal with decompression issues over their bodies breaking, or Marines, like you all get smashed, like your bones and your backs and stuff from carrying so much shit just in training and doing stuff. You all end up later in life with, broken
knee
issues,
problems, and feet and ankle problems and back issues. Yeah.
So as units figure this out and they create, it's not just the VFW. Like back in the day, I think everybody would just go to the VFW or the VA, and that was it, right? Maybe there was another organization that I'm forgetting or something, but it's just been
Legion.
Sure, but there wasn't like the Green Beret Foundation or the Navy SEAL Foundation or the, like now there's so many. Or you get into like the such and such memorial. That's the sucky part. Is so many individuals have passed or taken their own lives that the people that they leave behind, the units, the families, the friends, and the other people in their world, after the military, sometimes they're business leaders or leaders in the community and stuff. And that with their loss, they'll start an organization based on whatever might have been lacking in their situation, or, what they were a big fan of or part of. So anyway, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but what we don't have is any kind of unification or collaboration between them. And I think, I say that all the time in the gun community too. That's one of those things where they can exploit that. Sure, we're able to have all these organizations, and we should, and there's no reason not to, freedom-wise, and to heal and do stuff. But at the same time, now we're vulnerable because we're a whole bunch of things without communication between each other. And hopefully that'll be the next level we get to, right? Where we'll just figure out a way. Like, we're not going to get rid of these organizations. There's no need for that. But they also don't have to work independently. They should be able, if they want to be able to plug into each other and become, Voltron or whatever that is, the big transformer built up with little smaller transformers.
Again, it's like you said, it's echoed in the Second Amendment advocacy community that different organizations either start up at different times or have different focuses, and then all of a sudden they start bickering with each other over funding, money, the splits. It's not just you can campaign and go, hey, we do this, donate to us. It's like, we do this, that group doesn't do it, but we do it. We focus on this, and that group sucks. And I'm like, you don't have to put anybody else down to build yourself up. But hey, that's just me, because I had to put it out there. My little positive, like, be cool, go along and get along, and try to build an alliance. It doesn't really show a whole lot of activity. You know what I mean? What do you call that? On my pages, I make a post that goes, "Hey, let's just do work and support others that do work." It gets shared like 5 times and get a couple of likes, and that's it. But if I went, FPC sucks ass, and you should donate to 2A40, all of a sudden it'll be all over the place, Like, people would copy it, people would fight in the comment sections, all kinds of crap. And I'm like, yeah, that's not how I am. That's not what I'm about, and that's definitely not what I believe.
Sorry, I'm reading the comments. I had no idea we had so many comments. I must have missed them. So, looks like Mike White is saying the 0.28 enhanced text tool will make the windage and elevation adjustments. Thanks. Is that the one that they sell, or is that a different thing?
Oh no, it sounds like something they sell. By the way, suggestion: if you're getting that because you lost it, get a few of them and put them in different places that you can actually find them.
Oh, that's a great point because they are little and they get misplaced, dropped, and blown away.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about doing it myself, getting some of these things for some of the objects I have, and just picking up, finding out the size of it. Some of them use torch, some of them use just little skinny screwdrivers. Making a rundown. I don't know about you guys, but like Harbor Freight and just buying a bunch of those little suckers, get some red tape and just put a little string of red tape on them. I don't know if anybody does the Altoid box thing, but something like an Altoid box, keep it in there and put them in my range bag and then have like another one in the little zipper of my range bag. So if I'm missing one, at least I'll have the other as backup. Because I hate being at the range trying to zero something or adjust it, and I'm like, have to go to the range person. Now, you guys got a little screwdriver? You guys got torch headsets? Keep it on. Buy inexpensive ones, but keep it on.
Yeah, and then having that, you can throw those kind of things in there, and then you end up. So I used to have a keychain somewhere with, man, I can't even remember all the little tools. There's something for the shotgun chokes, and that's like a keychain. The Crimson Trace little things are a keychain. Probably some other optics over the years have come with them. Maybe some grip panels. Maybe some AR-15 rail stuff has come with little tools. So, having like a little keychain or something on a tether on your range bag.
Real Avid also used to sell, let's see, Real Avid or Avid? Avid. It's one of those people that make different kinds of accessory tools and things like that. Yeah, they actually donated some stuff to us, which is really cool. And check them out. Check if shit they have something out because people like buying things. People like multi-tools and kits.
They got a lot of batches. They're a cool company.
Yeah.
So why it's called an Allen wrench? Woods had asked that. I don't know if he was really asking the question or not, but I was curious. Despite its widespread use, its origins, the name, understand. Let's see. What does it say? Come on. It just said right here. Here it is. Back to the 20th century, it's from the Allen Manufacturing Company in Hartford, Connecticut, the first company that developed the unique tool in 1910. The inventor is also named William G. Allen, so it's named for his wrench, and he used it in furniture manufacturing.
Nice.
So they were
what years? Did they say
1910. Originally used for assembling his patented bedroom sets, which featured adjustable joints and fasteners that used his special tool for tightening. The hexagon provided we all know how it works, and it caught the attention of the automotive and aviation industries, leading to its widespread adoption. And I think now that's the Allen Tool Company, because now that the Allen Tools, it's that company.
Okay, I was wondering about that because I'm like, why in the heck would I ever have an Allen wrench or Allen tool when there's Phillips heads? Because the Phillips head didn't get developed and patented until 1932.
Okay. I mean, for machinery and stuff, the Allen's wrenches are nice and bolts, but for just general use, a Phillips is, way more universal.
Crazy though. Hey, look, I didn't know. I'm like, I figured they were both around the same time. No, the Allen Company obviously had a 20-year lead.
Man, when I was doing, I think the Firearms Inventors deck, or at least after that, and I had that stuff in my head more, like I hadn't lost it yet. And I had all these things in my head as far as dates and facts, and I wanted to do more with it while I still had it swimming in there, and I could still, relate to it all. you know how it is when you study a bunch of stuff like that. And I'd been doing that for months, I think, working on the cards. So I was doing some timelines, and what struck it is, I forget who it is now. I'd have to think for a minute. It's not Savage, but one of the inventors that I was researching invented the sewing machine, or the safety pin, or the fountain pen, or something like that, like some common thing, maybe a clothespin or something. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, but it's not a gun, so I'm not putting it in here. Actually, I might have put it in the deck because it was something like a safety pin or the paper clip. It was a pretty ubiquitous thing. And I was like, oh, that's kind of neat that a gun inventor invented this kind of thing that we still use, right? And I think one of them did invent the sewing machine too, because a lot of the firearms inventors were just inventors. So they have like, you know, they were just playing like Edison, like just inventing stuff. And oh yeah, I invented 3 guns, but I also invented a car and this other thing and a bunch of torpedoes and everything. So I thought about that. Like, wouldn't it be neat to, you know, for some people to see a timeline of here's all the different guns being invented. And I always think of the revolver in 1850. We know the 1911 is 1911. So we get everything before 1850 is cap and ball guns. And I forget when Colt invented, or whoever invented, the cap and ball revolver, but you know, who cares? All that stuff is super primitive, and I don't have room in my brain for it. But 1850, you start getting Smith & Wesson building cartridge revolvers. And then, so all revolvers have existed since 1850. Semi-autos, because we only care about the United States, started in 1911, essentially, with the 1911. So, you know, like we have, I mean, it's almost a lifetime. Like my grandparents, I think, were born in 18. So, I mean, they were born almost at the same time as semi-automatic pistols were invented. But at the same time, my grandpa was born before. He wasn't born before airplanes, but he was born before we were doing World War I. You know, so like before airplanes were doing anything. And in his lifetime, we went from airplanes being like essentially like little kite bicycle things to flying to the moon and all the rest. And that's a ton of stuff to have happened. And you know, it seems like a lot of stuff happens with guns, but the amount of inventions that happen. Anyway, I just thought it would be neat to see a timeline of the different inventions. You know, just some of the main inventions, I guess. You know, the car, the sewing machine, or the dishwasher. I mean, not the dishwasher, the clothes washer, the television, the radio. You know, some of the things that kind of changed society around, and then drop the guns in there. And I don't think the guns are that big an issue. You know what I mean? Like something like the washing machine changed the world 100% more than even guns, I think, in all guns, but certainly more than like revolvers or semi-autos or something, some little increment. All right, so we got some real questions. Plain Nut was asking earlier, well, if you're doing questions, would you guys recommend, what would you recommend for a good wood stock cleaner, just looking to clean for now and not refinish? You had said something to him, right?
Well, when I looked up back in the day when I got my Mosins, because that's you know was when I tried to clean up the stocks and get rid of all the cosmoline. I looked that up, and what I saw was about mineral spirits. People were talking about different things like linseed oil, wood strippers, that kind of thing. And I didn't want to stink up my house as I was cleaning this stuff. So what I ended up doing was just using hot water, took the guns apart, got a big ass bucket and a PVC pipe, you know, with a cap on it, filled it up with hot water, dropped the barrel and that whole thing in, cleaned that up. And then the stock, I dipped it in hot water, you know, to get the cosmoline off, and then just scrubbed the crap out of it, making sure I got all the water off so it wouldn't cause the stock to swell, obviously, and cleaned it with CLP, and that was good enough for me. So I don't know how much work he has to put in or how stained it is or something like that.
That's a good point. And where you live, because you put it out in the heat and it'll sweat cosmoline out for a long, long time.
Well, I wanted to, sweat and cosmoline out helped too. I did take that because I remember it was the summer at the time that I did it. And of course, I live in Jersey and I had neighbors around me. So I didn't want to, you know, walk outside with a fully assembled firearm because someone freaking pissed themselves. So I took the firearm apart and I, took the Mosin apart in the house and put it in the PVC pipe with the cap on it went outside with the boiling water, dumped that. But the stock, I could take it out and I set it out. Again, I dipped it in that hot water real quick to try to just wipe it down. Use the rag, almost burned myself. Um, but I wanted to clean it off. I didn't want it sweating through. And it worked out really well. I did it also with my SKS because my SKS was packing Cosmoline too. So what did he say he used? All right. Yep. Cool. No, I didn't use a silicone. I'm looking at what he wrote. He tried a silicone cloth, but it didn't work well with heavy deposits. Yeah, I just used a regular freaking rag and elbow grease. I did, I
Yep.
think, buy an old pot. I didn't use something that we use, you know what I mean, to eat. I think I picked up something from like Family Dollar or the dollar store. Put water in it and dropped my bolt in it and boiled that, and then threw the whole friggin' thing away when I was done getting the Cosmoline off, and just use CLP out on the back porch.
Yeah, thrift stores are your friends, or like ask somebody, like, do you have an old pot you don't want with broken handle or something? And then you kind of trash.
Yep.
I was gonna say just some kind of wood soap, but it really depends on what you're talking about. Like I've seen, actually I have some. So my worst stocks, I leave them as is. I don't care. I don't put anything on them. So I'm not a good. I leave things as is essentially, but I will use the silicone. I think that's what they call it, Teflon cloth, whatever, something that's impregnated with something, and it's just a towel. And I got that habit from when I was growing up. You pretty much always had to put your guns down with a towel or with some kind of an impregnated cloth, or else you'd leave rust fingerprints behind everywhere. So I would wipe stuff off with that. But honestly, I only have like what the SKSs maybe. Do I even own the SKSs anymore? I sold a bunch of my stuff off, so I don't really have that much stuff with wood. Maybe the shotgun. So like a modern shotgun, a Teflon or silicone cloth is fine. Like that wood isn't porous. It's not thirsty. It's already finished or something. If I did anything to it, I put a dink in it or something. It's not, I don't care. In other words, the wood's not fancy, but and it would be polished if it was a fancy wood. So I'm assuming he's talking. Did he say the gun, or do we just assume SKS? Is it something like an old?
Oh no, the only reason I brought up SKS is because that's what I had, and that's where my
like all meal serves, I'm
like,
go with soap and water also, because they're essentially, who knows what kind of life they've seen, and as long as you don't strip them with bleach or something, you'll probably be fine. But I would be worried about
definitely don't. Yeah, and don't soak them in water. Do not soak them in water.
Not unless you want it, like you say, it doesn't just absorb like a sponge at this point, I think. Oh, where do you buy the elbow grease? He needs to buy a couple of gallons of it.
You know what? It's funny because there's probably a product called elbow grease somewhere.
Oh yeah. I'm sure there is. Midget is asking, new to shotguns, when you put a choke on a shotgun, can you shoot slugs through it? So you're talking probably a smooth bore, and you should be able to shoot slugs through it. If you get the big rifled slugs, maybe be careful, and you're going to get 3 chokes usually. Sometimes, I don't know, I shouldn't say that. Back in the day, they would give you 3 chokes because they thought you might take it hunting and shooting, whatever they call it, like, skeet shooting, but or maybe different kinds of hunting, I guess. But essentially, you don't put the full choke on there. If you just put the no choke or whatever it's called, and then the or that little
modified.
Is it the modified, kind of the slight choke? I'm pretty sure you get through that. They don't try to set you up to fail. But if you went to like the largest 3-inch rifled, because like you say, we're probably talking a smooth bore gun here, and the chokes are probably smooth, but they're just there to kind of tighten your shot pattern. Unless you use like a 3-inch, the biggest shotgun shell you could put through there with rifled slugs, then, like I say, that might be trying to take as much of your barrel as possible. And if you put the biggest choke on there, I think what would happen is your choke would just leave, right? Like, I guess I haven't seen this happen because it doesn't happen too much, but I think the slug would just take your choke with it, wouldn't it?
My honest experience is using Foster slugs, which are, the soft lead ones with a hollow base. So if you shoot it through, because a modified, it just shrinks down a little bit because it has the give. It's softer metal and it's not a solid slug. But that's not, what's recommended,
They
obviously.
got like ribs on them essentially because of that. They don't want
Yep.
people getting into
Mhm.
issues. Nobody's trying to set you up to fail.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want an actual slug gun, buy a slug gun or get a slug barrel for that gun, with rifle barrel for slugs. But outside of that, I don't think I don't have a lot of experience with it because I only shoot slugs occasionally just to see where they zeroed. That was it with my shotgun.
Trying to remember. I mean, I must have shot slugs before. I'm sure for YouTube videos or something we've shot slugs, but that'd be like you say, that'd be a paper. But maybe turkey shooting, getting ready for turkey shooting. We must have shot slugs for that because I don't shoot shotgun hardly ever. And I don't even know if I think I had to go put a sight because I just chopped whatever my shotgun was when I bought it. I chopped it at like 18 3/4 so that when I walk around with it, it's not hitting the ground all the time. So I can like carry it, just with my hand. Because we go dove hunting all the time, or we used to go dove hunting all the time, and I didn't want to, I didn't need a giant long barrel. And I also didn't have a sight on it forever. Like I never needed it for dove hunting. But when we went turkey hunting one time, I think is when I gave it to the gunsmith one time, and he essentially just screwed a little bead on there for me. But I guess I don't even have a choke now that I think about it, because all I did is take a hacksaw to it. I haven't had a choke on that thing since I've owned it. I must have a barrel somewhere with a choke on it.
I don't do chokes on my shotguns either. I have the ones the hunting shotguns. What the hell is that? My Winchester with the longer barrels that I shoot clays with, and then I have the fighting shotguns or home defense shotguns that don't have choke at all.
Okay, since we're talking about shotguns so much, I got to bring this up. So we're talking about Waltz or whatever, and they're showing different pictures of him and making him look like a FUD or that. There's like a picture of him squatting. It looks like he's pooping and he's holding a shotgun. And then there's another picture of him where he's standing there with an orange vest with a dog or something, or somebody's dog, and who's holding a shotgun. In both cases, it's a semi-auto shotgun. And some of my favorite comments to those have been, one, that's the shot, like they want to ban that because it's a semi-auto shotgun for one. So why is he carrying it? Why is he showing it off? But then, well, there's three, I guess. Then the next one is that well, the other one was that it was a blue shotgun, so that it was a dummy gun. I don't know if you've seen that comment.
No,
I don't know about that one. But then the other one, the best comment that's a gun nerd comment is like, why is he taking a trap shooting gun out upland bird hunting? And that was the best, where it's like, because for real, if you really want to be like, oh, look at, he doesn't have the right gun. Like the people who he's making that picture for don't even know there's different shotguns. And he probably doesn't know there's different shotguns, honestly. So they gave him a shotgun, and it does have a blue receiver. At first I was like, what are you talking about? Is that just the bluing? And it's a weird reflection. And then I seen another picture that I think it's the one where he's standing there kind of pooping, where he's kind of like squatting down. I don't know, he's supposed to be like in some kind of action shot with it. And it looks like a blue fucking receiver. So I don't know if they make blue guns, but I could totally see that guy, just because he's a politician, he's a governor.
Yep.
There's no way he knows anything about guns. I could totally see him going to some kind of a class where they literally have blue semi-auto shotguns. Not like blue, like what we're used to, the rings blue guns, but like, just dummy guns, because they need to be able to hold it or something in class, and they're going to have a $1,200 dummy gun. I don't even know if such a thing exists. That's what I was going to get at. Is, do you think, I don't know, have you seen those kind of replies to those pictures?
Nope. Again, I haven't seen much. I refuse to even bite into some of this bullcrap because it's bullcrap. But
you don't have
no.
to justify that. I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but for him, again, talking to the people from his state, he's just full of crap all the time. And I wouldn't put it past them to go, hey, take a picture with this. And he does. And they put it out as if it's legit, because they have no faith in you. They, as Anthony Colangelo, owner of Gunfire Range and host of Gunfire Radio, says, once you understand that they hate you, everything else starts to make sense. And it really is, hey, these people are stupid. Let's take a picture with this gun and put it out there. No one will know. And the people that know, we just blow them off.
Yeah, we just ignore them because there's really not that many
Hmm.
people that know or care.
Yep. And then if you do say something, people go, oh, here are the gun nerds again. Here are the gun nuts. And it's like, yeah, what I just told you was he showed you a picture that's 100% fake, totally disingenuous, and you have a problem for me because I know the difference. That's what you're pointing out.
Yep, you're
I know
getting
you're
mad
being
because I'm
lied to.
pointing it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm moving the drape or the curtain, and you're not getting mad about what's behind the curtain. You're getting mad that I'm pulling the curtain out here.
Yep.
Ozzy's saying, I got an aftermarket slug barrel for my 500. It has a cantilever scope mount attached to the barrel.
Hmm.
That's smart, and that's another option. So instead of having to buy a whole new shotgun, and I always rag on shotguns, but mostly because people use them as home defense or think they're good for home defense, and I don't. But when you're just talking about as a gun, they are super versatile. I mean, you can do almost everything. Like literally, if you had to go to a desert island, a shotgun wouldn't be a bad option. But part of the reason it's not a bad option is because of stuff like this. So you wouldn't want to be at a desert island. You'd want to have a gun shop nearby. But yeah, if you have a shotgun and maybe you're only going to buy a couple of guns and you figure a shotgun is a good multi-use thing, then yeah, you can get your long barrel for bird hunting or something, shooting things like skeet and trap. You can get a short barrel for hunting or shooting 5-stand or something where you're moving with a shotgun and shooting. And then you get your slug barrel for turkeys or I don't know what else you'd shoot. Deer, I guess. Back east, people shoot deer with shotguns all the time. And
Hmm.
probably just bears and stuff. Like I know people that back when we'd go fishing in areas where bears might swim out or be on an island with you or something, they'd carry a shotgun around. And I don't know if it was ideal or not. This was in the 80s. It's not like there was testing back then, but essentially a shotgun, 870 or something like that, pump shotgun with where they have 4 or 5 rounds of slugs, depending on how big the slugs are. They might be 4 rounds only, but still, you figure most of that's going to shut a bear up or at least get you far enough away from a bear. At least that's what I'm guessing they thought back in the day.
Well, okay, because where I'm from, I'm from Virginia. Part of Virginia, we only had shotgun hunting. Period. So it's funny 'cause you're like, I hate shotguns. See, my whole thing is I love shotguns because of the versatility they offer. With a
Mhm.
barrel swap, you went from an 18-inch because it's the legal limit, uh, the legal minimum without paperwork. So you can go from 18-inch defensive shotgun to upland bird with the exact same shotgun with a barrel swap to shooting slugs again with a barrel swap. And the entry level shotgun, pump shotgun, if you don't care where it comes from, is like $125 if you catch one on sale for something brand new. And you can still be in that price range with even a used one and walk out the door as long as you don't care what brand it is and it's one that'll work for a really long time. So yeah, swapping barrels is something I tried to do. The problem with it depends on what you have. I have Winchesters. I can't even find an 18-inch barrel for a Winchester 1300, Winchester 1200. And then when I did find a page with them on it, it was $200 just for the barrel. And I didn't want to cut my, barrel the longer barrels that I use for clay shooting. I didn't want to cut those down, so I ended up just purchasing another shotgun for like 125. Excuse me, I purchased a new shotgun, Turkish shotgun, for $99. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I picked up Stevens shotguns on sale for like 125 to 150 bucks. Again, brand new pump shotguns. Worked for me. Same thing with a Maverick 88. So there's ways to get into shotguns for little money. And if you want a different type of shotgun or a longer barrel, something with like a Maverick 88 or a Mossberg 500, barrel swap, and you got it. That's why I like boomsticks. Are
Dude,
they the best for home defense? Nope, but it's the lowest barrier of entry for a freaking home defense firearm.
and what you're talking was new prices, right? So imagine when somebody's
Hmm.
selling theirs or, has too many, the kid doesn't want it anymore. You're probably going to get that
Yep,
gun used for $50 from somebody. From somebody
very,
at a
very
gun
low
shop,
price.
back up to 75 or whatever. But yeah.
Hmm. My mom, I gave her one of my shotguns for her home defense because she will not practice. She will not do anything. So I gave her a single shot, five freaking buckshot in the sleeve, the neoprene sleeve that gets floppy if you actually use it, and it has a hammer. and it's the most intuitive gun you can own. Hey, push this lever to the side, the barrel flops open, stick this thing in it, close it.
The
Gun's ready to
only
go.
the only issue, and I don't know if you know this one or not, but some of those
Mhm.
the single barrel, right? Some of those single
Mhm.
barrels, the barrel kind of cams off, like if you know what I mean, like to come apart to be into two pieces.
Oh
It
yeah,
doesn't.
no, it doesn't.
I don't know. Okay, but you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
Like some of them,
Mhm.
their backpacks are just their anyway. So that
Come apart.
if you were totally not familiar, like you could be like, oh, and then not know how to put it back together.
Yeah, now you're trying to you got a bill kit, but no, I ran through it with her. I had to shoot what do you call those, birdshot, and I had to just shoot water bubbles in the yard with birdshot, and then I had her shoot one buckshot at a gallon jug of water. She looked at me like, "What the hell did I just shoot?" I'm like,
You're like, wow,
"You're
there's that
okay."
much difference between one and the other, but that's ideal because you want to let her know like
Mhm.
what's coming. Yeah. And
Yep.
here's the
So I
thing,
gave her.
just like
Go ahead.
noises, like, you know, if you're going to the range and you're shooting all afternoon, yeah, don't give anybody slugs. That's mean. But
That's stupid.
if
Yeah.
you're somebody's breaking in the house, they're defending a grandchild, they're not going to hear
Yep.
nothing, and they're not going to smell nothing, and they're not going to feel no recoil. At least that's my
There you go.
contention.
Yep, and I gave her a box of birdshot, and I said, just shoot water bottles with it. This is inexpensive. And here's a box of not slugs, uh, buck. But I was like, not even a box. What is it? The 5 round box
Yeah, usually
of
buy good stuff for
buckshot.
5 rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it a government buckshot, and I put 5 in the sleeve, and another 5. My mom ain't getting into a 10 round shotgun shot with anybody with a single shot, but she has the stuff there. Good to go. It could be anything from a wild animal or something with rabies in the yard, because she babysits my cousins and stuff. So she's got children around. If she needs to grab something, she can grab that and take care of it.
Well, and I always say that there's 99% of the time, if not more, like I don't even know because there's so little use of these things, but most of the time it's just that she knows that she's got it and she's capable, and now
Hmm.
that she's got that she wouldn't have had without it, right? I don't know what to call it, but it's not like it's necessary, but it sure is. It's like having insurance. Like you could probably go without insurance, hopefully nothing happens,
Hmm.
but it's sure nice to have it if you can have it, right? So it's sort of that, right? Like the confidence, the assurance, the knowledge, and now you can go out like, oh, I want to go get that out of the yard. Well, can I go out in the yard? Like, what happens if, like, you just live a fuller life? At least that's what I like to think. Having the skill set and having the knowledge, you can do something if you needed to. Threw out there to try to play it around a little bit. If anybody wants to try to throw Red Dawn questions at us, I doubt you can throw one at us that we can't figure out.
Now, obviously, I can't figure out anything, so you're taking the freaking off. You're doing the heavy lifting on this one, bro.
Yeah, no problem. Like I've been a fan of this one since it came out.
Hmm.
I've always liked it. I definitely had it on VHS immediately because back in the day, this movie came out before VHS players were everywhere. So
Hmm.
once VHS players were out, and you could, and at the beginning of VHS players, you would rent them and a movie and take it all back. And then after a while, you bought your own VHS player, or the family had a VHS player, right? And then you rented
Uh-huh.
just the movies and shit. And then after that, you bought movies. But it was probably till fucking late 80s or some shit till people were really buying movies. I mean, I don't remember anymore. It's so long, but it feels like it was quite a few years before people like were owning their own movies. Not including you take your VCR to someone's house, or you rent a VCR, or you rent 2 VCRs and then you copy. We were doing that immediately. So we did have copies, blank tapes with movies on them. But anyway, I've been watching Red Dawn since then. And Red Dawn and Terminator, both 1984, I was two of the
Wow.
VHS tapes that I destroyed. Like, a VHS tape, I don't know how many watches you
Hmm.
can watch, but it's magnetic, so it falls apart. Like it turns into snow. I've toasted, well, at least one of my own. One of them was my Terminator was a ripoff. I'd made my Terminator, so it was a whatever blank tape that I turned into one. But my Red Dawn was a
Uh-huh.
real. and then I bought used ones after that. So I've gone through many copies back before the days of being able to watch stuff on a computer. Or I guess DVDs came out after a while. But honestly, I don't even know if I own. I think I only own one DVD of Red Dawn. I quit watching it as regularly, I guess. By the time DVDs came around, I was watching more stuff, and Red Dawn wasn't as. I don't know. It wasn't as.
That is great.
You know, there's more movies.
Yep.
You know, back when Red
They
Dawn
had
came
other
out.
movies.
Yeah, people don't realize that some of them. Look at what else came out in 1984. I'm going to go do that. Movies from 1984. There was a couple of good ones like Terminator, but but I'm going to go to just list of American films from 1984. Okay, Ghostbusters, Beverly Hills Cop, Indiana Jones, Gremlins, Karate Kid, Police Academy, Footloose, Romancing the Stones, Search for Spock, and Splash. Wow. So okay, there was quite a bit of good ones. But then
the only thing that stuck was Search for Spock.
But seriously, those were the good ones. Those were the highest grossing. But there was stuff like Hot Dog the Movie. I'm looking down here. Reckless. Like, these were dumb movies. Blame It on Rio.
Wow. I still remember Blame It on Rio at Blockbuster.
Repo Man.
I thought Repo Man was fun.
Yeah, I mean, these were, but I mean, I'm not doing a good job here, but the movies were fewer back then.
Yeah.
And we didn't know they were classics. They just were coming out. And if you went to, I should have gone to 1983 movies maybe, but essentially Red Dawn came out and it was like Star Wars. It was just such a different movie. It was the first PG-13. So it was so violent that they couldn't make it R, or they couldn't make it PG anymore. But there was no sex in it, so they couldn't make it R. I think that's what it was, something like that. Like, right, there was really no sex in it. So I think that's what R was sex. So they were like, well, you swear a lot? Or wait, and there wasn't very many swears. I think that they were the first time, or it was the first movie where they were like, well, shit, you didn't swear and you didn't have sex in it, so, or you don't see no boobs or anything. So, we can't tell you can't tell you it's adults only, but at the same time it's way too violent for kids, so let's make a new category called PG-13 where it's too violent for kids. But
of course, being America. Go ahead.
Well, I was just say, aside from that though, it's just such a cool movie that it stood alone, so it had an impact on a lot of people, I think, but me for sure.
Oh, definitely. Well, the funny thing is they made it the first PG-13. And that just made every damn kid want to see it, just like when they said rap music, rap lyrics are bad, and we're going to put this sticker, a parental advisory sticker. Well, that sticker just became the one I looked for.
Yeah, people started swearing just to get that free sticker on there.
Yep.
So it's like, get what you wish for, or, get what you ask for. Anyway, but it was violent because he was making... he had made an Apocalypse Now for Vietnam, and he wanted to show something about this, situation, this tense situation that was happening. And then later on, they had that movie called The Day After, which was just a made-for-TV movie that was supposed to scare everybody into thinking we shouldn't have a World War III, in case anybody was really thinking World War III was so cool. But I don't know what the point of that movie was.
Watch this one. Watch this one. The Day After. Chris Christopherson, right?
I think
Chris
so.
Christopherson is The Day After. And me and my brother quoted this one all the time. Where you going? Going to start a revolution. That was the line from the movie that stuck with my little brother and I. And every time Mom asked us where we were going, that's the answer we gave for so long. It got on our damn nerves.
Dude, I got to watch that
Hey, where you
movie.
guys going?
Was it a two-parter or a three-parter or something?
I think it was like a two-part movie.
It was a big deal, and I've seen it on the things. I'm going to go watch it again now, because I think I might have watched it maybe 5 years ago, and I was like, oh, okay, it's a made-for-TV movie from the 80s, I don't remember watching it originally. I do remember the big commotion and everything. I just didn't. I was probably too little or something whenever it came out, or I wasn't watching. I don't know, but anyway,
I just laughed because
when it came out, everybody gave it kudos. Everybody said like, "Oh, what a great thing to have done." Now it came out. When did it come out? Do you remember?
What's that?
The Day After.
The Day. No.
I'm looking.
No.
Okay, it
Same
came out
time
the
frame.
year before. It came out the year before. Yeah. So,
Okay.
but I remember that one getting such like acclaim, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Like it was in TV Guide and everything. But then Red Dawn, just a movie. I think the movies, I didn't really pay attention to the critics and stuff, but I don't think the critics liked it much. Like say
Well,
they
see, I
didn't
was
like
12,
it.
right?
Yeah.
I was 12 when the day after, and 13 with Red Dawn, and that had the total. That didn't work out like they thought it would work out with me because that got young Tony totally into survival, firearms, tactics, guerrilla warfare. Like that trip it big time. Before I would just notice stuff in the movies, you know what I mean? And guns on TV, guns in the movies. Um, and I would read some of it, but it made me go full tilt boogie into picking up the used copies of American Survival magazine and all of that. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
think it helped trigger that movement in America.
It was either feeding on it, or it fed it. Because remember that movie with Robin Williams, right? With the
The
little NA
survivalists.
revolver, the survivalist, right? That one was earlier. Like that one was sooner.
Mhm,
Like, we were younger with that one. But so that means that survivalists were already a thing. Because I don't really know when
mhm,
that happened. I think it's been around forever. But they just made fun of it in that movie.
Yep.
And in Red Dawn, they're not making fun of it. They're just like saying, like, kind of justifying it, right? Like, hey, you can make fun of it all you want, but
Mhm.
here's a reality where that would come to play. Or is it kind of like Red Dawn is kind of like the Patriot in a way, except based in 1984. Um, just in the way
Well,
that, like, I just watched a
to
Patriot
me,
movie. He's trying to mind his business, and the British come in and are like, "How about no? How about we're going to take all your shit?" And then he's like, "Okay, you're going to kill my family. I'm going to kill you."
yep. To me, as a child, again, growing up in Virginia, 70s, we already had, and this is also the educational system. Again, Virginia in the 70s, they looked at the rebels, Civil War, as a guerrilla action that was justifiable, war of Yankee aggression and all that. Well, that's the school system I grew up in. So we saw the guerrillas as a good guy. You know what I mean? We saw people fighting big government as a good guy because that's the seeds they planted in us. Um, Robert E.
Well,
Lee,
I
Stonewall
always
Jackson.
I don't ever remember hearing about this except for my family. My dad liked to go to Civil War battlefields for whatever reason.
Hmm.
I've seen the shit tons of them, and he never really talked about it other than that's where we were going on vacation. So I don't know if those were just destinations. Like we talked about it when we were there, but it's not like I ever got informed about them. Aside from that, that was my first ammo collection, but as in school, we never talked about the Civil War for what it's worth. We always talked about the Revolutionary War. So I'm down with the whole idea of like we're rebels and we fought unconventionally, because that's all that they ever talked about at least maybe that's all I remember from school talking about history and wars was, Revolutionary War. They talked about Civil War a bit. Then it got to a whole bunch of the World War II and Korean and Vietnam stuff was predominantly what they told us about. And then they tried to shove some of the more current stuff, which was, nothing. But I always had that idea that the country is rebels, like that we're
Well,
going to do it our way kind of thing.
again, being a Virginian, Civil War and Revolutionary War happened within feet or miles of where I was born and raised.
Yeah, that's got to
So
be.
seeing these, yeah, going, yes, Robert E. Lee marched through here going this way, right past your house. They had some crossings and different things on the road, and you just continually pass Civil War and Revolutionary War markers of battles or movements or camps are all around you. So there's a different perception. And that's what's funny because people look, and I'm talking about American people, oh, this is the way we think about this. No, no, no. It's the way you thought about it where you came from. Or that's what Wikipedia told you people think about it. I'm letting you know what we were taught, what we learned, and what we picked up in school. And it was a totally different perception. So when these movies came along, Red Dawn, it was just, dude, this is just like what I read about, running through the woods with the swamp fox or, guerrilla warfare. And this is what happens. And of course, we just had Vietnam. The books were coming out by the guys that were in Vietnam talking about the unconventional warfare and what they did, because those were the cool books. So you're reading about the Rangers, you're reading about SOG, you're reading about snipers, you're reading about the Mike Force teams. Like you're just, all of that came at the same time. And then there's Soldier of Fortune. So it just all helped form me and my little firearms entry education military thing.
And then to put another angle on it, the wall in Berlin didn't come down until 1989, so 5 years later. So there was no like smell in the wind that like communism was over. There might have been Poland. What was it? I forget I think the Polish were the first to say, or the Czech or the Polish first to say "fuck you." So that might have been going on. I don't remember when that happened, but it wasn't like, when Red Dawn came out, there was definitely still cold. Like our biggest concern was that we'd be walking home from school and all the nukes would start dropping. We weren't scared shitless, but we knew that was a thing that could happen because we were still in this Cold War, and the gas prices were normal again. I think we were all kind of coming out of that kind of apprehension about international shit. But I remember that element of it too, that like, this idea that if we are off our guard, Russia and whoever their allies are going to snap on us, because there was tension. There was that kind of concept that if we fought, they were going to take us over. They're not just going to fight and then say, now we win, it's going to be the ruble and not the dollar, let's all go back to work. It's going to be more like, we're going to take you over, we're going to knock you out and take you. So I don't know, there was that element of it too, that we had this enemy that the whole country understood. It wasn't like terrorism where like, oh, maybe we'll get a black eye out of nowhere and there's nothing we can fucking do about it and we just have to live in this like state of terror. We weren't living like, there was terrorists, I guess, but we weren't, that wasn't something they were turning up the volume on the regular basis. But the Cold War was sort of a constant thing at that time. It's, just bringing that up, because when you look at this thing as a movie in 2024, it's just a movie, and people are going to look at it like, I don't like the special effects, or, I do like the special effects, or, like I personally think the guns, like when I started researching it. So for me, I guess I've liked it for a long time, and because I've liked it, I've just vacuumed up stuff about it whenever there's been an opportunity. And for a long time, I was in I don't know what to call it. I was in very active Kalashnikov collectors groups. Let's put it that way. Like people that did a lot of stuff. I have like a really large bayonet collection, and I was collecting stuff and buying. And the reason I got the reason I was able to get my big bayonet collection was through a lot of purchases. And then like I would buy a bunch of parts, and I don't want the slings and the pouches. And then I trade them with the guy who had the pouches and or he was collecting pouches and slings for his bayonets and kind of stuff. So, a lot of that. And this was all message boards days. This was early internet. And whenever that was all happening, I learned about the guns themselves, that the guns that, like I had owned a Mahdi, an Egyptian AK that was, you could have imported pre-ban, pre-assault weapons ban in 1994, and they were kind of expensive. And then you could still get them through the ban. And then after the ban, there was still some of them dwindling in. So I had happened to own one when I first started to learn about this. And then they tell me that the guns that were used in Red Dawn were pre-1984. So this is 1984. So these are, pre-1986. So in 1984, when Milius makes the movie, he says, buy whatever AKs you can buy and turn them into machine guns. And we're using those in the movies. And those machine guns that he made in 1984, I forget, I wrote it in the description of the thing I posted on Instagram today. Was it 13 or 36 or 26, some number of AKs? They turned most of them into full auto because it was, $100 conversion back then, the $200 paperwork. So the armor that owned them, just did the conversions on all of them. They turned some Valmets into RPKs and the long 760 by 39 version. And then some they just did left semi-auto because they were just going to be held by people in the background. And then they made them look like battlefield pickups. They made them look like guns that would have been carried around by troops and stuff. And then these props after the movie existed. And now the 1986 assault weapons ban happens. It's much more difficult to make machine guns. So you can thank Milius for that effort, because pretty much all the A-Team and like every movie and every TV show that we've seen since with AK-47s in it are those AK-47s, or at least a shit ton of them. Because for a while, nobody was going to go through the effort of trying to get them and then turn them into full auto when these already existed. So I always thought that was neat as hell. And then that company goes out of business and sells them. So I know, like where 3 of them are. I've shot one of them. I've shot the one that Jed has, the RPK that Jed has, and then what's her face dies with at the end. That's an RPK made out of a Valmet, and that's at a gun shop here in Tucson, or in Arizona, about halfway between Phoenix and Flagstaff. There's a town, and there's a indoor shooting range there, and they have that gun for rent. You can get Jed's gun, or you could put a mag through Jed's gun. It's really neat. So these guns exist, like the guns from the movie still exist, and the others are private collectors all own them, but they all have these pedigrees, and I just thought that was neat as hell. Like there's a super cool history to them, and like, that's just another layer of this movie being so cool. And then I'll just wrap it up with, because I could rant all day about it. At some point when I was traveling, I think with Haas the first time. So me and Haas are driving we were trying to get to New York. We didn't end up getting there because the cop car kind of broke down in DC. But we got from Tucson to DC and then turned around. But on the way out to DC, we're driving up past Albuquerque. And that's one of the first times I was like, I'm going to go drive past where Red Dawn was made. And he was like, I'm down. So we drove up there, and it's kind of off the beaten path for sure by a couple of hours. It's not like I'm just gonna take an hour off of 40. It's more like a 2.5 hour drive off of 40, depending on how you get there, if you go back roads or not. But anyway, so that was my first time visiting it. And what would that have been, 2012? They have a place in town, because they've made a bunch of movies in that town. So they have a place in town for like visitors that they have a little booklet, or back then they had a little booklet, and it would kind of show you some of the features of the town, because they leave pieces from the movies whenever they can. So there's chunks of Red Dawn still there, and there's chunks of these other movies. So I've been on that trip, I went to a bunch of the filming locations because they were kind of obvious. And then with Bob, when we do the podcast, Bob came in 2016 and we started driving. I'm like, oh, let's go back there. And we found the rocks where at the end with the Heinz and everything. We found those rocks. Then we found pretty much everything else. I found everything there is to be found except for Partisan Rock. At the very end of the movie, and a couple of times during the movie, they go up to this rock and carve people's names in it. And at the end of the movie, this is a monument. Well, there's some speculation that that was a fake rock, that they just went somewhere and created a fake rock and made that scene. But then other people say that that rock exists in Colorado. So that's the only thing I haven't found as far as like known filming locations. But I've been there now, I don't know, 4 times or something. And it took me a while to find, for example, where Aardvark holds up the AK-47 and says Wolverines, like that iconic scene. You know, that one, I found it. It's way far away from the rest of them. So it's like, okay, I know it's there, but it took me like 2 more trips before I could get out there again. And I was trying to figure out a way to get up there. And I was just too chicken because it's kind of rocky and I didn't want to fall and break a leg in the middle of nowhere because it'd be just my luck, right? And it's literally in the middle of nowhere, no cell phone or nothing. So I kind of want to go out there with somebody before I go climb up on that rock. But I did find a rattlesnake. I found a dead rattlesnake right where Aardvark, well, where his family's getting killed or was about to get killed. So anyway, I've had a lot of fun exploring the Red Dawn. I've done some live shows from Red Dawn, like the gas station where they load up in the beginning. They go to Jed's dad's place and load up all that stuff. That wasn't a real place, but the location exists. And I was in one of Yankees chats at that intersection. It's out in the middle of nowhere, but they set up like a fake gas station there for that scene. And it's also the scene where they break down the truck and have to pee in the radiator. It's like a quarter mile down the road. So anyway, so I've had a lot of fun with Red Dawn, and then trying to discover all the filming locations is a lot of fun. Like just doing research online is something I like to do. So finding more and more of that, finding more and more of the like outtakes and the director's cuts, you know, from more and more DVDs that start getting made. And then, you know, Michael Schwartz from San Diego Gun Owners.
Yeah.
Right. He's a super big fan of Red Dawn. Also, he knows his daughter, and he's had his daughter on as a guest a couple of times. So like listening to that interview, I learned some stuff. And then once I figured out that she's a person who does interviews, she's like a director and stuff too. So I started listening to more of her interviews and learned stuff indirectly. And then there's a movie about Milius that is pretty neat. So I think I definitely like to meet him. He's had a stroke, and I don't know if he doesn't really interact with anybody. So I'm not sure if that's a thing I'll be able to do. But I think I'll just wrap it up then with earlier this year, San Diego gun owners had their first gun show in San Diego in a long time because they were able to champion them again. So I went out there. Derek was out there. And one of the reasons I went is because it was $500 to get out there. It wasn't cheap. They played Red Dawn on a movie theater at the movie theater there or at the movie screen there at the thing. So that was neat, like seeing it big screen. And it turned out it was the 40th year. So 40th anniversary year. So anyway, so it's been a pretty neat year for Red Dawn stuff. And that's, I'll quit talking about it. Like I said, I could keep going on and on, but yeah, I'll shut up.
Well, it's just funny because they're iconic movies that people continue to push, on you that are iconic movies. Ooh, Titanic, never seen it, don't care. And then there's movies that were iconic to you and really to a community. I mean, it's the gun community iconic movie. It's kind of a patriot, America, yay. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. I don't understand the downside of having a reasonable amount of patriotism for your country, and not using it to cover up other stuff or not even giving your country a pass on the bad things. We're going, yes, I'm celebrating the fact that I'm here and this country is awesome. And we have problems that we can fix because, well, we have a good system. I'm not going to.
And one of the nice things about the system is that it every 4 years, I mean, even without term limits or even with people that stay in their positions for a long time, there's so many people and there's so many moving parts that there's no emperors and there's no tyrants. It's really difficult for them to get, you can get some trending stuff, but anyway, our system allows that stuff to get washed away.
Yep. Ooh, this is the worst. Stop. I'm tired of hearing from people that this is the worst and the silliest comment. I posted it. Anyone who tells you America has never been more divided, are either pushing your buttons and manipulating you because that's their agenda, or just stuck at history. Just like we're horrible. We're the F students in history because it's like, no. It's something called, I don't know, Revolutionary War, Civil War, War 1812, Civil Rights Movement, American Indian Wars. I mean, I don't know how much more divided you need America to be when we have open warfare among Americans.
And I think a lot of times, I was telling this to Yankee the other day that I forget where I seen it, some meme or something years and years ago. But I think it was when Hillary was running against somebody. I guess that would have been 2016. Was she running against Trump in 2016? Yep. That seems like such forever ago. That seems like a lifetime ago, but it was just recently. Yep. So anyway, it's at that point they had that. I probably brought it up in here because I think I say it a lot. But if you look at a pie graph or whatever, they want us to think that it's 50-50. Like everybody votes and all of them are voting for either blue or red. And in reality, it's more like maybe 2/3 to a half sometimes, but mostly probably 2/3 to a quarter of the people vote. And it's tied up, like just as many reds and blues are voting, but then there's 60 to 80% of the people that never vote and don't give a shit. And maybe they vote, but they don't have a color. They just make a decision on that day or something, or on a whim, or whoever, whatever. 60% of people are just going to make a decision without a color involved. And that's the reality. And I think that's when, you see the people that are like, oh, there's so many more votes out of nowhere. Like, they're not out of nowhere. They're just out of that massive group of people that never vote. Something mobilized them to vote potentially this time. Hatred of some guy or fear of something, or really good messaging, right? Maybe inaccurate or deceptive, but, effective messaging. But whatever, people don't. I think we're too apt to take for granted. Take at face value. Is that the way I say it? Like, the perception that, we're neck and neck and it's either us or them. If you don't change your mind, then we've lost you and you're gone forever. When in reality, there's like 8 people that you could talk to that aren't dead set against whatever we're, that we could talk to and change their minds and increase our ranks by 8 people.
Yep.
And they're over there yelling crazy stuff, so they're not necessarily attempting to increase their ranks. They'll take it if somebody increases their ranks, but
Yeah, I laugh because Woods has it. The sky, what is it? The sky is falling always.
Yeah.
This is the most important election of our lifetime. I'm like, wow, I've heard that since Jimmy Carter. I'm like, I heard that in 80, 84, 88, 92, 92, 96. You know when I don't hear it? When they're talking about school board elections, town council elections, or people running for mayor, governor election, the gubernatorial elections. Yeah, that's when it's really important. But no, keep talking about every 4 years and the president.
and that's again I've heard legacy media or corporate media. I don't know if that's a better description of it, but
Same.
yeah, it's just different ways of describing it, I guess. But when that big media had the more of the stranglehold, then that's what we got. You get your presidential election every 4 years. You get told what happened in your mid-year elections, but otherwise, here's sports or here's the weather. Like here's something else to distract you from another country. So messaging was what they decided, and I don't know. I've said it for a couple years now, so either I'm wrong or it's taken longer than I kind of expected, or maybe we're dealing with the change. But that stranglehold is gone. It's been gone for a while. The people that they do have, let's say, control over, because some people are only going to watch NBC or something like that. That number's got to be dwindling, and the new population is kids. No kids ever in the history of kids have given a shit. So I'm not going to care that the kids don't give a shit. Whenever they wake up out of their phones and start to give a shit because they got to pay taxes or something bothers them, and they, as a generation, wake up, are they going to be? Is it as dire as we think that we're told that the narrative is 100% because they went to school and were taught this? That's what they're going to do. I remember being taught a bunch of shit and I rebelled against it, and we all collectively, like say no to drugs bullshit. Like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, you're telling me that this is going to happen if you touch it one time. It's ridiculous. So I'm not going to believe you on anything. And then I'm not saying that was for good, because now we have fentanyl crisis. But that's what happens when you tell kids if you touch it, you're going to go blind or whatever. Now they're going to go touch it. And now they're going to get addicted to fentanyl. Or at least we got ourselves susceptible to be addicted to fentanyl. I personally think if we would have not done that, starting with Nixon, but definitely with Reagan, leaning into the drug war and treated it like some other countries as a medical thing, we could have potentially sidestepped the whole meth era and the now fentanyl era and whatever was before the meth. It was like,
well, it was two things.
So, bro. It was ecstasy and shit.
Let's understand this. They figured out how they could make money on it. It's always the funny thing is, all of it is the government figured out how not only did they fail, but they were able to make money on it. So prohibition. All of a sudden, you had to create a whole new agency to fight it, right? You had to bring in the FBI. You had to change the laws, and of course, take more freedom because the government itself decided it wanted to ban something and pass morality laws, and it failed spectacularly and ended up creating the modern day mafia and that entire alcohol underground and the economy that it brings and the other crimes that it brings. You also created the FBI, cross state laws, whole bunch of task force. Same thing with the drug war, whole bunch of task force. DEA went from what, like DEA was like $2 million or something like that to $2 billion with the war on drugs. It's ridiculous. Government figured out how to fund itself. Oh, and then it changed over to pain management doctors and allowed doctors to actually give out opioids as painkillers, as treatment. That didn't happen before. They were much more stringent on giving pain medication before.
I was going to add that when you talk about making money on it, they're making money on both ends, or at least people are making money. Not there's the people, but people are making money on both ends, because on the chaos that's created by the whatever the drug use, the negative drug use, then you got to clean all that up. And it's like a fake economy, right? Like you let a bunch of people spin out, and then all the people that clean up and have to, deal with the medical and psychological and then physical damages there. That's a whole like sub economy. I don't know what to call it. Like a whole nother level of the economy that doesn't need to exist, but they get to manage it and use it, exploit it, essentially, use it as a talking point. Oh, how bad is this? How sad is this? When they need to, of course, they ignore it the rest of the time.
Yep.
But
it's always
it's the government. It's not just the government. It's the people who are, like, I want to help, and I'm going to funnel money into this other dumb idea because, otherwise, if they really wanted to help, they would have funneled money into some non-government thing that would have addressed some of these issues.
Yep, because the non-government thing can actually help out. The government thing can't get out of his own way. Oh, tell me about all the programs that the government did. The government helps people. Yeah, private industry could help them out more because it's streamlined and doesn't have the waste. So anyway, that's our rant. But it is hilarious because we're the older generation now. We're becoming the older generation of dudes that just don't buy what they're selling. And you would have thought it was. What was that?
I say I agree.
Yeah, and you'd think it would be the people that protested against the war, Vietnam War. You'd think it would be the hippies. You would think it would be the generation that came after World War II that fought for, civil rights, women's rights. And it's not. It's their kids. And we're going, yeah, you blew smoke up our ass our whole childhood. You told us the whole world was falling. You told us that Russians were going to nuke us. You talked about how devastating and dangerous the Soviet Empire was, and everyone was after us. And then when we find out in the late 1980s, 1990s, they couldn't get out of their own way. There was zero chance they could have actually taken over Europe. There was no effing way they could have done a Red Dawn at all. They can't even take over the Ukraine now, and it's next door. It's like, yeah, all of that showed the lie. Oh, and also we grew up with the Soviet incursion to Afghanistan, which was an L for them, even though it was an L for us, but for a totally different reason. But that pretty much led to their downfall. And it's like, yeah, so the boogeymen that you kept painting us with, and the war on drugs, and just say no, it was all a lie. And then we raised our kids, or Gen X, because what am I, a millennial? Millennials and Gen Xers just looked at everything that we were told.
You're Gen X, dude, aren't you?
1970. I don't know.
Yeah, you're Gen X. Millennials start like 80 something. They're like a little brother.
Okay. I wouldn't know. I don't give a shit. But I'm just saying, people that were born in our age watched all this stuff come about, and everything we were told to fear was bullshit. From drugs to commies, to the communist takeover, everything. Now, we should watch out for communism, obviously, but I'm talking about the Soviet menace and everything they were hollow.
Well, I'm not going to go that far. I think that's taken it too much because if things after 2020 hindsight, yes, they definitely.
That's what I'm saying. Based on 2020 hindsight, what we saw.
But at the time, it was pretty frustrating, and a lot of people give Reagan shit, and I'm not going to try to defend Reagan because I don't know that much about it. But as far as the chess game of like, well, we're going to keep making shit so that you got to keep making shit, and whether or not what we knew, I suspect we kind of must have had some awareness of their hand. But we're going to keep making shit until we drive you out of business. And then once you're out of business, you'll want to do business with us. And I'm not going to say he orchestrated the thing like from the beginning, but playing that hand, at least, I'm glad he played that hand versus let's have a little nuclear skirmish on these islands somewhere or something horrible like that.
No. What I'm saying is not that at the time they were wrong. And I'm not even trying to play in that. But what I'm saying is the things we were always told to fear turned out to not be that. Fear drugs. If you use marijuana, it's a gateway drug, and you'll become a freaking homeless person, heroin addict. What?
Yeah. You don't even have a choice. Just get you.
Yeah. It's just you'll smoke weed, and a week from now you'll be homeless. It's like, what? How does that work? Don't ask questions. Just believe us. We have to boycott the Olympics with the Soviet Union because they invaded Afghanistan in '79. So we're not doing the 1980 Olympics in Moscow, and that's going to affect something. It was just all like in hindsight, and that's what I'm talking about. In hindsight, it didn't work. So kind of sooner or later, you keep telling the sky's falling, we're not going to believe you. And that's the generations we're in now.
That's where we're at. Exactly. So here nor there, again, like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm just clarifying that when at the time we had only the information we had. But no, I think that we're saying the same thing right now, that in 2024, I was going to bring this up, is that, or maybe I have already just kind of went off on a tangent from it. In 2024, Red Dawn doesn't work anymore. Like, Red Dawn can't happen because it isn't really a feasible thing. Like, I guess technically we could have some kind of famine, but we have a lot of food, and all we'd really, and you know, I mean, like, we're a big country, and we've had some really crazy famines and floods, and it hasn't driven us to like the beginnings of Red Dawn. But then there's also not another country that's mobilized to get us. Like you said, we now know even our worst fear, the biggest, most mobilized, most able to mobilize, couldn't hardly kick out Texas next door to them, or they're having trouble kicking over Texas without our billions of fucking dollars helping them. So, again, who cares what we had in our perception or our understanding in 1984? In 2024, Red Dawn isn't a thing anymore. So I don't even care, like, when the people use Red Dawn in weird ways, or use it as or I guess even when I said, like, somebody had said, aren't we living in it now? Like, maybe we are in your perception. Like, I don't know how old you are. Maybe you're an 18-year-old kid, and, you know, you knows what you're thinking, because you are seeing 2020 hindsight. That's all you get. Just like we probably, we're taking it for granted, but we have 2020 hindsight on the Indian Wars. We have 2020 hindsight on World War I and II, at least to some extent back in the day. And we're walking around talking about Vietnam because it was happening, or, you know, being in conversations about Vietnam, but understanding World War II. Well, now kids they have understanding of fucking global war on terror, which just ended because it was almost online the whole time. And now with this, at least if you want to, you can go listen to, I mean, holy crap, I've learned so much. I mean, if I had like a comics book's worth. I thought I knew a lot about the military when I went into the Army, because, you know, I made my choice and I had researched it. Like you say, we got all these magazines, like, fuck, I thought I knew everything. I knew like a comic book or two worth of data compared to what I know now, just from listening to all these interviews, you know, from different branches, from different occupations, from different, you know, experiences, and then different everybody that, like, that's another thing about, you know, the thing about veterans. The only people that can understand veterans are veterans. And that's not true. Sports people, I'm sure, are like this. Bands, I was thinking about it. Bands are probably a lot like this. Race car teams, any team is going to understand this. Even a bunch of people that work together are probably like this. You're going to get people that are essentially your brothers and stuff, and you might go through hell and back, in which case you're bonded. But there's no fucking rhyme or reason there. It's probably like, I can remember having a guy who got all the way through Stinger missile stuff until the very end is when they decide to test you for your secret rating. And he murdered somebody, so he never got to secret rating. And then they kicked him out, and he started over. He was in our basic or something. So, like, you know, I'm hanging out with this guy who's like 40 years old, and, you know, has gone all kinds through life and everything. And then standing next to some 17-year-old kid and a 21-year-old kid. And, you know what I mean? You're a platoon. Go do stuff together. And nowadays, like, back in those days, it would have been go dig a hole or something, or go polish rocks or some bullshit. Nowadays, it's like, okay, you're 16 people. Or whatever, 10 people, 12 people, go do a bunch of stuff. Okay, now go do your job, like over there in Afghanistan or wherever, or somewhere else in the world where it's all tense because we got shit happening in Afghanistan, right? It's not like Afghanistan was the majority of stuff, but there's certainly a bunch of other stuff going on in the world. So yeah, if a kid wanted to nowadays, the amount of knowledge you'd have, I don't know. I feel like kids are pretty good at stuff, though. You know what I mean? They're pretty capable. That's when you're at your time of life, when you can make the most decisions. Maybe you got the most brain cells firing. You know, you just got done learning, hopefully through school, learning how to learn, right? Learning what resources are. You're able to discriminate who's smart or not. And hopefully they don't get into too many ruts. That's the problem that everybody has, right? Like, getting into the comfortable ruts and not paying attention to what's coming, getting into vulnerable ambush points. But that comes with experience. And hopefully these kids are going to get experience faster. I know I got experience way faster. I can remember having conversations with Grandpa. Like, Grandpa, I don't have to do it like you did. I don't need to dig a hole for 4 years to understand that I don't want to dig holes. Like, I dug enough holes as a kid. I'm done digging holes. I want to do something else. And, that was a different generation. They're like, no, you need to dig holes for 4 years or whatever, weird advice they had. And, you know what I mean? Like, okay, Grandpa, running around with that shovel over your head must have done awesome back in the day, but it also, you have fucking arches and you fucking had bad posture now. There's other ways to exercise.
Well, it is 100% true. There are different ways to do things, different ways to learn things. And when you're younger, especially if you got out of school and you were even a okay student and you're motivated by what you're learning, you're going to pick it up quickly. Because, I graduated at 17 when I joined the Corps, and I was also in computer classes. So when I go join the Marine Corps, go through supply school, and go into computer school, well, now I know all of this. Let's roll. And I'm graduating at the top of my class in computer school. You know what I'm saying? To the point that I didn't even bother studying anymore. And ended up slipping down to second place in my class. But still, it was like, well, I could study and improve on this 98 average I have, or I could try to go hook up with these, Navy chicks. Bye.
You are 18 at the time, yeah.
Yeah, I'm 18, away from home in, a small town where now I'm here.
All of our stuff was like 6th grade level, and they didn't even try to sugarcoat it. They're like, you better learn this shit because it's 6th grade level. Like, they would tell us that shit all the time.
Yeah, no, I wasn't, but it wasn't complicated, especially if you were a kid that went through computer classes for the last 3 years. So yeah, I was able to do it.
Right. Yeah, computer MOS is probably way different levels, but yeah, I was thinking more of the basic stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, we went through that. So yeah, when I see a young person come out, I'm like, yo, you have options just like I did. Take advantage of them. Don't blow them. Don't get in that comfort zone. I was talking to, and this is about firearms related stuff. It was one of my coworkers who just started as a officer, and he was like, "Hey, I hear you, the gun guy, and I got some questions, and I'm thinking about getting certifications in the firearms, as an instructor." And he was like, I'm going through the department. He was like, I said, what about going through civilian classes? Oh no, I'm going to hold off on that. I'm like, don't hold off on that. He's like, why? I said, take civilian classes. So one, you can learn how to actually talk to civilians as firearms owners, because there's different concerns and different regulations and rules we have to live by. Also, and that affects how you train someone, how you talk to someone. Training a 22-year-old officer how to shoot a firearm and training a 71-year-old grandmother how to shoot a firearm. Yeah, the fundamentals are the same, but how they approach it, how you speak to them, how you do all of that is different. How you approach the subject is different. You're going to only have people in this little narrow area fit in their 20s or 30s shooting a firearm, the same firearm, in the same way for qualification. Totally different world when you step outside of that. And the quicker you get used to it. What was that?
I was just saying, with like a mindset that they might need to use it tomorrow in the line of duty at work.
Yeah, it's totally different. I was like, so when you step out of that, one, it makes you a better all-around instructor, but it also gets you connections with people that aren't just military or law enforcement minded. And that allows you to have a lot more options when you retire or even do this as a side job because, wow, people know you on the civilian side now. Oh, he's a pretty good instructor. He's also law enforcement. But he's taught my wife to shoot, taught my child to shoot, taught my mom to shoot. All of that opens up for you. I was like, so that's one of the conversations I had based on, the whole, when you're young, you have options and don't get caught up in, what do you call it? You said it was a rut. Or like that's just one track mind thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're always vulnerable to a ambush because once you are in it, you don't realize it. It becomes comfortable for you. And then your opponent sees that you don't waver from it. They can take you out at whatever time they feel like.
then you
just
make conversations, or you one of those cops or law enforcement trainers or military trainers that say crazy things like, "Well, a civilian doesn't need to learn this." Hey, bro, as a police officer, if you need to learn it, I need to learn it because we're in the same. Who the hell do you think calls 911? It's like for you to even get the phone call means a civilian probably was in the middle of it first.
Yeah, half the time I'm sure. Well, I'm guessing about half the time it's somebody else even calling. The person who's in it is in it,
Mhm.
or maybe they will call. You know what I mean? But if there's usually some witness or something.
Yeah, so that's people like, what do you do at work? What do you talk about when these guys ask you questions? Stuff like that. Stuff like that. Giving them a different perspective as someone who's not only trained in the military by military, but trained with law enforcement by law enforcement, and of course civilian classes.
Yeah, and over time, because there's a change over the time of seeing all that stuff. Being around it over time. We've talked about that before.
Yep.
Wood's changing topics a little bit, but maybe like, if we're talking Red Dawn here, it's the 40th anniversary, 4 decades, 40 years. I'm not that old, so I don't know how that happened, but shit, I
Yeah,
was
me
not a
neither.
kid when I was watching this movie. Damn it. I think I was like 17 or something. So, but whatever, 40 years later, like I was saying, I can understand why Red Dawn doesn't resonate. There's not a patriotism like there was. Like I was trying to say, like, we were living in the echo, and things were slower back then. We were definitely living in the echo of just a lot of patriotism, and like the resurgence of some with the Vietnam kind of division was healing in lots of different ways, because just as many people hated the war, many people booked to Canada to not get drafted, and they just stayed in Canada. So it there was definitely some people actually were motivated back in the day when they had a problem with the country, they left the country instead of just being a bitch and talking about it all the time. Like now we have all these people that threaten to leave the country every single election, but they're still here, right? But
Well,
I guess
there was no price. There was no price to pay. Understand the reason people went to Canada is because their ass would have went to Vietnam.
Yeah, prison or war. Yeah, no, I hear that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, there was definitely like a different time, right?
Hmm.
But today, so we've got Woods is talking about the drones. I don't know if you listen to. I think I've asked you. You listen to Ironclad at all? There's Ironclad is a channel
No,
on
is Ironclad
YouTube.
a new one?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
a
go ahead.
channel on YouTube, and they've got Borderlands. They've got Change Agents and another 2, I think now. So there's like 4 different shows that they have on this channel. And I definitely listen to Borderlands, and then I listen to this Change Agents. And it's a SEAL who interviews people. And he was interviewing another SEAL who, in his after service job, I think in the service, he was into drones or something. I know SEALs get drones, and I'm sure they probably got some of the first cool drones, right? So he probably got some
Hmm.
experience. And then I think they didn't really, I can't remember if they talked about it. I was walking in and out when I was listening to that one. But essentially, he did something in the SEALs where he got a taste of it. And then after, he ended up building a company that makes drones. So drones, a lot of people think of them as those quadcopters that, we have as toys or as professional cameras type of thing. But there's
Hmm.
lots and lots of formats for drones. And this one kind of looks like a torpedo. So it shoots up like a rocket with these kind of like, a torpedo has like big propellers. So it shoots up with these
Hmm.
big propellers. And then once it's like up in the air, it kind of falls over and then starts going. So it's like a vertical takeoff, but it looks like a missile. It doesn't look like a airplane or something. So, or a helicopter. It just looks like a missile with some big ass rotors on it that are enough to throw, drones are obviously they fly differently because they're just robots. Anyway, that one I believe is either ordnance or it's one of those I think it can be lots of things. That's what the thing is what most of his stuff was, is that these things, we think of them as like single individual things being controlled by a guy with a remote control. Even when we think of the big ass ordnance drones or the Skywatch drones that they had overseas during actual action, where it would be somebody sitting in some kind of a trailer in Nevada or Arizona or someplace, on a 6-hour shift, and they just sit down in a chair with a bunch of TV screens and watch what this drone is doing. And then I suppose that drone must come down to some operators somewhere who give it new parts and throw it back up in the air. I have no idea how that operates, but you know what I mean? Like the remote pilot concept of these things. Mm-hmm. That's what I think most people think about as drones, is that there's a 1-to-1. You have a drone and you have a pilot. Well, AI and swarms remove all that. So now for planes, it's going to be one guy flies with 30 drones and he's sort of in control of 30 robots. He'll have the kill decision, at least for now. That's how they're planning to do it. And so our next Air Force will be one dude flying around with like 30 drones around him that can keep up with his airplane, little tiny F-16s flying around a big F-16. And they'll have crazy ass capabilities with munitions and staying power that we've never had, because the human guy can just go back down to the ground. They can keep getting air refueled for indefinitely. And we'll probably figure out ways to have airports up there that just, fly up there and hover, and then these little drones land on it, get refueled and jump off or whatever. And then you get swarms where they're autonomous, essentially. They're given commands and just told to go do their jobs. Yeah, it'll be crazy before it gets not crazy. And
truthfully, I believe we're in the between World War I and World War II era of drone warfare. And the reason I'm saying World War I era was the Israelis and where we're kind of getting now. So the Israelis first used drones during the 83. I think 83, in one of the strikes in against the Iraqis and stuff like that. They used drones then to actually recon something, so you knew right before everything went down where everything was. And they also used it as bomb damage assessment. But now drones are the weapons or your weapon system. And now the B-52, the latest version of the B-52, is actually going to be able to have swarms of drones set up around it, almost like other bombers. It's going to actually
like World War II.
Yeah, it's going to be able to fly with that and also have drones probably for defense purposes. Also, the new B-52 will probably have a laser on it for self-defense. So yeah, I think we're between the war eras, because again, this is Ukraine, and the Ukraine is picking up stuff from China, picking up stuff from Turkey, and the Russians are also in the drone war. It's not like worldwide funding has started, but once the shooting starts, that's when development kicks up a total another notch, right? I mean, between, you start off in World War I where you had biplanes and one pilot, and then it developed into much better planes, a pilot and a co-pilot, machine guns, shooting through propellers. All of that happened between 1914 and 1918. Like that jump from the first pilot in World War I to the fighter squadrons we had at the end of World War I. And then there was a slow development to monowing all metal planes between World War I and World War II. And then pretty much from 1939 to 1945, we went from multi-engine bombers, all metal bombers, to jets. And it's like, that's in one dude's pretty much military lifetime. That's a military career.
What was there, 5 years between the wars?
Oh, what wars? Between World War I and World War II? 25?
Oh, there was that many? So it was almost a generation. But there was definitely like a lot of World War I vets in World War II. I think I may have
Patton was a World War I vet. Patton was a World War I vet. Eisenhower was a World War I vet. The dude that ran the Air Force, multiple of those were World War I vets, and they were in the Army Air Corps then. So you saw that development from prop planes that you got out and spring contact and spun a freaking rotor to jet engines winding up on the runway. So I think that's where we are. I think we're in the interwar period, at the beginning of the interwar period development of drones. So whenever maybe Taiwan kicks off or whatever's next, that's going to be a big step up. And we're reducing the number of manned aircraft, I think. Manned warfare aircraft. It's going to be reduced.
Yeah. So I have to go listen to that interview again, and he doesn't get into any super specifics, but yeah, when just the concept of some of the stuff he alluded to, I guess the capabilities of the drones and stuff, just gets you thinking that, like you say, we're definitely not at the end of drone technology. We're at the opposite end.
Oh, heck no.
Very beginning of it.
Yep.
Plane.
Also, we're talking planes.
No, plane.
We also have boat. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. No, but we have underwater. We have land. Like they're gonna be everywhere.
Well,
And I think
I've heard. I'm interrupting.
also the cost. Oh, I'm sorry. The cost difference. Since you don't have to have a human life support system, well, that's a very expensive part of it. Also, submarines, ships. You got to feed everybody. You got to have laundry. You have to have rest there. All of a sudden, ships have shrunk. All of a sudden, water vessels shrink. All of a sudden, planes shrink. That's less money. Less money means more money goes into development, or you can buy more of them. And that also means smaller countries can get involved and get into the development and the processing. It's like, yeah, we're in an area that we're science fiction. I mean, really is the next step. Pretty much what you can imagine we can probably achieve.
I was interrupting you for something else, but I'm going to go back to plane.
Oh,
That was
sorry.
saying, if you think drones are scary, wait till you hear about the single pilot and pilotless commercial aircraft concepts I've been hearing about. That makes sense because I remember hearing a lot of stuff about automated trucks, semis, or at least one guy driving with like 3 semis behind him, robot semis following him.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think that's as far away as they were also saying the trucks were going to be electric, like giant Tesla semis. And I think that doesn't work physically. Like everybody says that won't work physically, but everybody says everything won't work physically until people try it for a while, right? And figure it out. But here nor there, I think there is going to be that concept of automated vehicles, like you're saying. I've already, in that interview I'm talking about with Mike Drop, he, at the end of it, the very end, they talk about that allegedly what already exists is pilotless or manless torpedoes that launch missiles, and those are parked off of every coast everywhere. And so essentially, like you're saying, submarines without people in them, that if you don't have to put people or air in it, then a nuclear submarine can just sit there for fucking ever. Actually, they're not nuclear, they run off of salt water. So they're engines that batteries that run off of salt water, and they only have to come back to change electrodes or some shit. So but they're essentially robot torpedoes that launch missiles because they're small as a torpedo, nowhere near as big as a submarine. So now they can be anywhere and they can move, and it's hard to find them. So that's fun to think about.
I think the thing that'll stop the pilotless commercial planes, and the thing that will stop, or at least slow down, in both cases, slow down the development or the implementation of the vehicles, commercial vehicles, is unions. And unions in this country, pilot union, various other unions that I wouldn't even understand that are connected to flying planes. Also, various other organizations involved in traffic on the highways, and American tradition of driving our own damn cars. Like all of that also. But American society is changing, and the younger generation of people, some of them don't even want driver's license. So if they could buy the robot car, they're cool with it.
Oh, they don't want the robot car. They want robot Uber. The robot Ubers that just show up.
Robot Uber.
Yeah. You just jump in.
Yeah, and they don't see the downside to that.
Honestly, I don't know if there's a downside. I don't think it has to be one or the other. Like, have it all you want. Just be wary of it, and
Nice.
Anyway, but attention. I mean, we have them. Like, they're already taxis and stuff that drive around without people in them. And yeah, like I see something the other day where somebody just put a T-shirt on with a stop sign, and when the robot taxi drives by, they take their jacket and open it, and then so there's a stop sign in front of the robot taxi, and half the time it stops. And that's a funny thing, but it could also be dangerous, right? Like you can imagine how it can be dangerous. But the thing is, those robots, allegedly, the idea is that once a robot gets fooled, however the system is that figures it out, once it figures it out, it never gets fooled again, and none of them can get fooled again. So there's that concept. Yeah. They can be very effective, but then all they have to do is decide what's best for us is to just kill us.
Well, I'm like, okay, cool, that all works. Then the hurricane or flood warning goes off in your town or whatever happens. And for the good of everyone, they say, yeah, we're not running the robot Ubers anymore because you shouldn't be traveling.
Nope. Yep. Exactly. We'll bring what you need to you. Here's your necessary nutrients.
Well, I got to get to grandma because I got to get to grandma's house 7 miles away in a storm. If I had a car, I could drive there. But now I'm going to try to walk or ride my bicycle 7 miles to get to grandma. And if she needs help, well, I'm like, again, I'm an old dude from a different generation, but when you start losing self-sufficiency, bad things can happen. So I ain't saying you can't have one or the other, you need to have one or the other, but you need both.
So
you need to have the ability.
Actually, I don't know how much time you got. I got to stop before too long. So I got to the mailbox place, but I don't have to stop immediately or nothing. But I also want to be courteous of your time. We've been on for 2 hours plus already.
Yeah, we can run this to a natural end. We don't have to friggin', pull it
right immediately. So the other thing I was going to say is it was a different thing. It wasn't that same interview, but along those lines, I watched an interview recently that was talking about robots and whatnot. So I tend to listen to that kind of stuff. And somebody's prediction, maybe it was Elon's, but it might have been somebody else's who's in the field. Their prediction was essentially billions of robots, humanoid robots, and they were like by 2030. So it's evidently, think about how fast cars come out and how well-made cars are. If they figured out, and they already have, you've seen the Boston Dynamics? Whoever that, Boston Robotics, the people.
The robot? Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen the video of the timeline of that whole thing? I mean,
no, not the timeline.
I've seen and it's probably from them. But it's like you say, like a YouTube video. But if like somebody did a really nice YouTube video about it, essentially they start, and the thing, we all remember it being like a dog, and then it kind of went upright for a long time. It had like a cord off of it, and then it was like it would fall over, and they were pushing it over. But now it's super crazy. Now it can like do all kinds of breakdancing and stuff, and grab boxes out of the air and grab circular things. It can pretty.
It can break dance now?
Yeah, it can be in the Olympics.
Watch out, Australia.
You've seen them jump around and shit. So and then the dog one, I really, really, really like the dog one, but I don't like the dog one if it's autonomous and it's got an arm on it. Because the dog one where it has an arm instead of a face, where its face is a hand or whatever, and it's got like a neck like a giraffe, but it's a hand at the end, that thing can open doors and do stuff. So but the thing is, when we're talking about somebody was predicting there's going to be billions of those, it's essentially like what iRobot is. Like if those things were an appliance, a couple of $700, and you could go to like Best Robot and get your $700 robot who is maybe not life size, because that would be kind of a waste. You'd probably make it the size of like, I don't know, like a teenager or, like a kid or something. Like you wouldn't want to make it 6 foot tall for any reason, right? Because it would be able to jump and grab a step ladder or whatever. Like it wouldn't need to be huge, but a life size ish thing that could drive and stuff for you. Because as we get an aging population, the boomers, like our parents, they'll buy anything and fucking sell them. Like they like shit. That's the reason I think one of the reasons we're the way we are is because they got sold a bunch of shit and they bought all of it. Like they definitely got marketed. Like they were an experimental thing in capitalism, and they got marketed a bunch of shit. They had to sit there in front of the first TVs, from what I understand, and got bought all those first records and bought all the first fashion, and then gave all that same shit to us. So we really relived a lot of that shit, the buying new toys every fucking 5 minutes, and the a lot of that stuff that we have baggage and stuff is because they buy stuff. So anyway, I don't think that's a generation that's going to go, no, I'll pass on the robot that like grabs stuff from the shelf and makes me a martini and like will take me to the car and drive me to the to a hospital if I fall over. You know what I mean? They're going to be the first to buy it. Like little robot nurses. I'll fucking probably want a robot nurse, you know, if they're $700. I'd
Oh yeah.
paint something cool on it, make it have a mohawk or something cool. But that's the other thing. Once we got robot butlers, robot nurses, robot maids, whatever we're going to end up calling them, people are going to dress them up. Like, that's going to be a whole industry. Nobody's going to question that shit. They're just going to be like, I can't wait for the new version of iRobot to come out, and I can have, you know, I can have a different menu on it, or I can make it have a different noise.
Yeah, believe me, before I don't want to think about the accessories you're gonna have on a robot maid because that's going a totally different direction.
Oh yeah, that's a whole different chat. But know what I'm saying? Like that, once you start thinking about it that way, everybody's got a robot maid. Then, China, let's say China makes the robot maids. Oh, there's actually a backdoor software in there that on February 14th of blah blah blah, all the robot maids grab a razor blade, or comes a razor blade comes out of their nose or their fingers.
Yeah.
And now the United States used to. This is just a blip in a history book. A bunch of suckers that bought robot maids.
And then you disappear. Well, really, think about it. You're setting yourself up for vulnerability. We've taken manufacturing out of the country. We've taken computer chips out of the country. And we've pretty much paid other countries to develop stuff or to manufacture the things we develop. So you might as well go, yeah, you just gave them, you came up with this great idea and then gave it to them to build. Well, they can do what they want now. You can't build it. You just come up with great ideas, but you can't put it together. You don't have the industrial capacity to build it on a larger scale. I mean, is what it is, man. Welcome to life. I'm not stopping any of it. As my old partner told me, who's 18 years older than me, he was like, dude, I'm just hanging on and watching the show at this point. I understand that we can't make a difference and all the stuff we're pointing out, we can't change it. So I'm riding the ride. I'm taking the wave in. He was like, I got maybe a good, if I'm lucky, 15 to 20 years left.
I mean, I get that. But here's the thing. I know people like you, Katie. I know, I can go on and on, right? Diana, right? And so I know people that are kicking and making dents. And then we're adjacent to people that are doing other things, maybe more political or more like sheriffs or, on the job in different ways. And they use you guys as reference or way to keep their finger on the pulse and to have the more accurate way to talk about the issues, right? Like, and then the people that I know that are actively, now we're going to get into like Walk the Talk, America, and even somebody like Ghost Tactical on Tuesdays, he'll mention Walk Talk America fairly regularly. And so that becomes part of a thing. And then you get Brooke doing a Great Start Shooting School Suicide Prevention Saturday. So you get these efforts that are being made. And I don't think anything just happened. Every once in a while, a viral thing changes things quickly, but most things take a minute. And there has to be some sand that starts the pearl, right? Like the thing that starts the bend in the direction, and then the thing as more and more people understand the change in direction. And I wish it was happening faster. Like I fucking wish it was happening faster. And I would definitely be the first in line to blame our three-letter organizations. Everybody else gets in line to suck their dicks. Like, nah, they haven't done that with me lately. They are what they are, but they're not doing a bunch of shit that they're laying on the table. And a lot of this shit would be over if they were. But anyway, without getting into that tangent again, I don't get what's the opposite of optimistic. I don't get dissuaded, and I'm definitely not pessimistic, I guess. But and I'm just optimistic in a different way. I know that we've got the potential, and I know people like everybody I just mentioned and more exist and are doing things in pushing the Overton window to use a better example, like we're pushing normality back, and we're about to lose Professor Yamane, I think, right? Like he seems like he's getting frustrated to a point where he's given those signs of like letting people know he's dropping out. We've lost people along the way, unfortunately, but we'll have new people jump in and be inspired by them. So I think there is a pressure, and that's why I say it's worth. And then like, okay, we're all on this ride. Unless you're a Rosa Parks who's going to live in memory forever, right? Like because she did what she did, And again, she didn't
Uh-huh.
just get up one fucking morning and do it. It was she got up one morning and did it after some planning and some thought, right? And it, with a goal in mind. But anyway, sure, there's going to be people like that, but there's a shit ton of people that just have to push that way, and then that's what's fucking worth it, right? That's the whole point.
100%. So I like my partner because he taught me to be a contrarian. I didn't even know what that meant. You know what I mean? He taught me to be a contrarian. He taught me to lean against this or lean against that, or at least look at another way of doing things. So I appreciate what he says, and and to give me that other option, as he used to say, tug on your cape, Superman. Make you look back and look at the other side of it, because I'm very optimistic. I mean, I wouldn't be doing what I do if I wasn't. Because why in the hell would I be hosting events if I didn't think I was making a difference? We got to be out there. We're going to make that change, and we're going to keep fighting. Everybody can quit. Everybody can say this freaking sucks and I ain't making a difference. Well, great. Nobody write books about those assholes. So you get out there and you try to make a difference. If I fail, I tried. Good enough for me. And I don't even know what the hell we were talking about before I got on that, because I was just thinking when you talked about Professor Yamati stepping away. It happens. It happens a lot, especially when people come in and think they're going to make a big difference before they learn really what's going on all over. He came in with his point of view. He did his research about what he's talking about. And I really got to pick up his book. But if you don't know the long road, if you're not talking to the right people that have been here a long time about walking that path, you'll think you'll come in well spoken, credentials, writes a book that makes perfect sense, and then it doesn't take off. And then he gets to know the community and sees all the infighting and all that stuff that he didn't see from the outside because he didn't stick around. He wasn't
You
here
don't see
long
it.
enough.
Yeah, it looks like a square from the outside. You get in there and it's a hexagon. There's all these different facets that you didn't realize, and then they turn out it's almost a circle. There's so many facets, yeah, and factions.
Yeah.
Right?
So all that and the and backs, and I know some of it. And oh, Tony, why don't you talk about it? Not worth it. You can either use your energy up talking about who doesn't like who and what they look, bro. Let's just do the good thing. Let's work towards this goal. And if you learn about the a-holes in the organizations and the factions and the cliques, cool. But if you don't, awesome. Let's talk about getting stuff done. We don't have to waste energy on this. And that's where I'm at with a lot of it. And I think he walked into it and was like, wait, this is not like I thought it would be. And it's like, yeah, it's not. It sucks. A lot of energy is being wasted.
Seriously, right? And that's I think a lot of the, I can't know, but I suspect, because you can only interpret from their posts, I guess, or maybe conversations if they go live or something. But how you just described, I'm trying to say, the not realizing the expectations they thought they were going to or something is
Yeah.
how do you don't understand that? And it's not like anybody, I don't want to be pessimistic, be like, you can't, like they should have known, because there's no way to know. Like there's
No.
you can't, because there's a zillion different outcomes, but to be prepared for kind of, whatever, that
So
underwhelming,
how do I?
I guess.
So I've been interviewed for books, right? I've been interviewed for books before, doing what I do. I'm not going to tell them about the clicks. I'm not going to tell them about the backfighting, who doesn't like who, and that kind of. I'm not going to. I mean, somebody can, but it won't be me. So if they come in going, oh, this is how it is, and that's the book they write, cool. That ain't how it is. I mean, they're not in it. They're given an overview of it from the outside. I'm like, you want you want a devastating book? Read Professor Yamati. Was it Gun something 3.0? Gun Culture 3.0, where he knows what's behind the curtains and he blasts everyone. That's gonna be the book.
That's true. I was saying he'll be 64 on the anniversary of the second. he's tired but not done. Right on.
There you go.
And that's
baby.
the thing. It's just
That's
like
what's up.
when you lift a log or you carry a boat or any of those kind of exercises where you've got something that's more heavy than anybody can lift. Everybody just has to pitch in, and you don't have to be the guy who's pulling it, because there is no guy who's pulling it. There's people that are underneath of it, and you're all driving in the same direction, and somebody's going to get tired and you're going to get a little bit more of the boat, and then they're going to get their wind and you're going to get less of the boat. And every once in a while, somebody's going to fall over and you're going to get a lot more of the boat. And then you'll fall over and the boat will still be up there. That's where, right? So you just have to kind of understand that. And I was going to add to it that I didn't want to keep interrupting you, but when you talk about facets and the little clicks and the gossip and shit, that stuff changes too. Like, the people who love each other and hate each other, it's like anything. Like we're small enough that everybody knows each other because we're all either they act like the gun industry is so big. It's fucking like 14 companies really, right? And maybe 26 if you count a shit ton of them. I mean, SHOT Show only has the entire SHOT Show is the whole industry essentially. So you can fit all of us. We're 20,000 people or 60,000 people at most or something. So we kind of all can know each other because we all hang out together to some extent. And then, just like anybody, you're going to get hurt feelings and bent noses and,
jealousy and pettiness
and clicks and in what's the word, like anywhere unfair treatment and
fighting, all of it.
So anyway, all the crap that you get in any community. But I guess I'm just saying, that fact is that it's going to be there with anything. I'm sure with motocross it's there, and I'm sure with dentists it's there, and I'm sure with whoever puts in those stoplights, those road crews have that kind of shit to deal with.
Yeah. So my whole thing is I'm going to miss good people. I'm going to miss the good people, people that are still in it. I talk to guys all the time and ladies. Oh, Tony, how do you handle this? How do you do? All right. I'll tell them how I handle it. You know what I mean? And again, I'm telling you a way. I'll never tell you the way. And we go from there. You don't even have to quit. You just have to step back maybe and take a breath. You know what I mean? And go, yeah, all right, I don't need to be this involved in this. Let me take a step back. Or you can go, F these people. I'm out of here.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be mad either way. I'm not going to be mad either way. We need help. But if it's too much for your mental health, man, walk away from this. Don't lose your family or, your thinking or, Nope.
But I think you can think of it like anything, like a diet or like exercise plan or like, I don't know, trying to learn Spanish or something. You can try to do it all in one night and it ain't going to work. You can understand that if you do a bunch of it now and a little bit more and then some more and then some more, eventually you'll have it mastered and you'll be fluent, right? Eventually you'll be fit. Eventually, whatever, you'll be in shape, right? But you can't do that overnight. And if you quit, you'll definitely not attain it. You'll never attain it. So it's just a matter of, how much you grab the first time. And then if that was too much or too little, how much you grab again, correct?
100%.
Yep. And then be aware that things change. So half the time, like I don't want to make it sound like we're talking to Professor Yamane here, but we're kind of using that as an example of the community and whatnot. But understanding that people are going to come and go. That
100%. I'm not talking to him, but he is one of the guys that I think had a lot of potential to reach others. Has a lot of potential to reach others that thinks differently than many.
Right.
And he's seen stuff that others have seen, and these are conversations I've had with advocates that some of us know. And it's like, sometimes you get to see what's behind the curtain, and you're like, I thought it was better. I didn't know it was like this. I thought people had stuff prioritized better, because in my mind, that's what I look at it. I'm like, well, to me, the priority is civil rights and not being best friends doing karate in the garage. Like, we don't have to agree on everything, but you're not my enemy. And some people have a hard time discerning what an actual enemy is and want to make enemies or want to be in charge or want to lead the charge. And I'm like, I'm happy to be part of the charge. Thank you. I'm glad to have these amazing friends that are doing amazing things. And I'm assisting if I can. I'm in the same room and I'm glad to be. I don't have to be the headliner in the room. Like my appearance at Goals next week. Gun
Next
Owners
week.
of America.
It's not next
Yes.
week. Holy shit.
It's next week, baby, 17th, 18th.
Okay, so I guess you'll be on the road. So we'll do the show again on the 24th.
Yeah, because I'll be there in beautiful Knoxville, Tennessee.
Right on.
And and I was laughing because I'm flying in. I wanted to drive in, okay? I wanted to drive, but they don't have that set up, because I would use a rental car because, again, my personal vehicle is 25 years old, and I'm not doing it to it, but mainly because I don't want to be on the side of the road somewhere. So I'm flying in, and I joke with one of the guys at work. I was like, yeah, I know this is going to sound like the most stereotypical black thing in the world, but an hour and a half outside of Knoxville is the first KFC that they made into a museum, and I want to go. I'm like, what are you going to do in Knoxville? Leave Knoxville and go to the first KFC restaurant museum because I think it's awesome, and there's no other reason to go to that town. But if I'm going to be within 90 minutes of it, why wouldn't I go to that town? I mean, that's a piece of Americana. Yeah, it's a piece of Americana.
So is it like there's the gas station or whatever where he was cooking, and then there's probably the first restaurant? Is it the gas station?
It's the first restaurant. I think it's the first restaurant. I fell down one of the rabbit holes on the internet, and I ran into a video of a kid that is his grandnephew or nephew, some way, but he's a young man in his 20s, I think. And he wants to bring back that legacy, so he grew the mustache and the little Van Cleef or whatever you call the beard, and he's got the little round glasses, and he wears a suit, and he just wants to get in on the legacy that his relative created. And he went there and took a picture, and I was like, wait a minute, what? There's actually a museum / and it's still open. I think they just have a restaurant attached to it. But I'm like, if it's close, I want to try to get there. If I can't get there, fine, because there are more important things. But I just thought it was funny.
I've been to a couple of those. They're kind of cool. Not to KFC, but I've been to like Dr. Pepper, and I've been to McDonald's, I think.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's cool. If I'm here, let's do it. And if I can't make it, I'm going to be surrounded by a whole bunch of friends and advocates. While we were on, a friend of mine who was working at the range at Fort Dix as, range safety officer, discovered what I do, came to one of my events, decided that he wanted to become an advocate himself, but he was moved to Virginia, retired from the military, and became an advocate in Virginia. And he's going to be at Goals. And I haven't seen him since he left here and became, he asked me how to do this, how to help, how to get started. And he said, as a white guy, how do I approach minorities and tell them about what you do or get them to come to the range? So I helped him with that. He took his own, initiative and contacted churches and different things like that. And he's been growing the firearms community in Virginia. And that's awesome. So I'm going to run into him at Goals. So, rather than drive 90 minutes or, one way just to go to KFC, if I don't get to do that, I'll get to hang out with awesome people like him or make new friends.
Or both, though.
Yeah.
Take them with.
Yeah, right. Hey, let's roll to KFC. We've just passed 12 KFCs. Somebody's coming. Somebody's coming, and I'm making the joke if it's a car full of black people driving to KFC for an hour and a half. I'm making the joke.
Now, I see if I was driving, I'd be looking for a gun shop or something like that. I don't know if there's museums up there. I'm trying to think. There might be.
Yeah, but see, the part about, me, I mean, the bad part about walking into a gun shop is I don't ever want to leave the gun shop.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm looking at everything.
It would turn a long trip into an even longer trip for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the bad part about gun shops for me. Hey, man, let me see that. Especially if they have like used guns with stories or anything. Definitely.
All right. Well, we're getting to the 3-hour-ish mark. So you had a full house at the or sold out at the last.
Huge.
How many?
Okay, so we sold out. Not only did we sell out, the last guy went. Okay. The last person that bought was a friend of a friend that has come to and helped support our events. And he was like, "Hey, Tone, my friend needs 4 tickets. He purchased the last 2. It's his nephew and his brother. Can they come too?" I was like, "Have them come. They can pay me cash. Everything is good." He was like, "Cool. Can I come and bring my stepson and his friend?" Yes. Well, now we just went over the number, right? I was like, "You understand when you bring more people in, it cuts down on the time that the people are there to be able to shoot." He was like, "I won't shoot, man. I just want them to shoot and have a good experience." I'm like, "Come on." So he came, they came. So we were up to 25 people. I try to limit it to 20. That allows us to get people in, give them 15 minutes to 20 minutes shooting in different ports, because you go from port to port, shoot different firearms, get the experience. They come out, next group goes in, and we do that until everybody shoots at least once, and then we start going, who else wants to go back in and shoot? You know what I mean? But we want everyone to get a taste, and then we can send them in. And that allows people that want to shoot more to shoot more. And I like that about it. But you have to set it up in relays. And it also allows me to go from room to room and talk and get these people talking to each other, because I break up the click. That's also why I use it. If I send everyone in, everyone would stay with their family or their friend that brought them and just stay in that port and travel like they're connected at the hip. I use that to break them up. I use relays to break them up. And now they have to talk to the person in the room beside them. Or at least I instigate it and put them together and try to get them to actually talk to someone from a different background, different race, different perspective, different age group. And it helps out a lot. It actually creates friendships and all kinds of different things, or at least creates conversations, and then it's up to them what they do with it.
Yeah, I don't know how often it's an issue, but I know that a lot of times, well, pretty much every time you even bring it up, couples will say, "I want to learn from somebody besides my significant other," right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I got to get them away from each other.
Yeah.
Did you watch my video about the couple that came on a date night? So they came to the diversity shoot. She's been to 3 or 4 of them. And she said, "I finally convinced my husband to come, and we're doing like a date night thing." So I took a picture of her and I, because she's an extrovert and he's an introvert. So I took a picture of her and I doing the peace sign with him in the background. And I'm like, "Here's a couple that came on a date night," and I crashed it. Really great guy, really nice wife, but she got her husband to come. She's trying to get her son to come. Another lady's bringing family. These people coming from New York, different parts of Staten Island, New York City, Queens, all the way to the places I'm hosting in Jersey, not even the closest ones. You know what I mean? So yeah, we had a full house there. We had a full house at We Shoot in Lakewood, New Jersey. And we've already sold half of the tickets to the August 22nd event. So I'm going to make that announcement tomorrow. I already made the video today. I have to do my voiceover for it, for the announcement that the tickets are there. And then I'm going to post it up with the links and create the Facebook event. But half the tickets are already sold. And people usually only buy out the tickets the day of the event because everybody waits. So with me, if we sell out all the tickets in the next week, I am not putting out videos talking about it. I'll talk about the next video, the next event after that one, because I don't need to be inundated with people asking me, can they bring extra people, even though the event's sold out. Smeggy kicking up dust in the freaking statements.
See Smeggy out there? What's
it? Yeah, right I'm not going to GRPC. Right now, what we're trying to do, if I quit being a little bitch, is start the 501c3, take the money, make sure we can get out to I can get to SHOT Show and play in 2025. I went out last night to a cigar bar, a cigar not bar lounge, cigar lounge, and ran into one of my first students, and also one of the guys that participated in the Minuteman Challenge. Got into a conversation. He was telling me about a large Pennsylvania range near me that was like 25 minutes away from where we were. And he was like, "This is a big range, really nice. Maybe you should check it out. They're a lot like Gun for Hire, and maybe you could host events there." Well, before the night was over, he told me about another guy that owned a lot of guns. I just thought he was a collector. No, he's an not he's a distributor, and they actually got into a conversation that they're in works to buy this large range because the guy who was my student, who just had his first guns and wanted to take his first class, came with me, now has enough money to actually be a partner in this purchase of the range. So after the older guy left that owned the distribution company, the kid looked at the young man looked at me and went, "Hey, Tony, if this purchase goes through, don't worry about it. You can have his." He was like, "I'm partnered with him. I'm going halvesies with him on the range. This thing goes through by the end of the year. You can have as many diversity shoots as you want here."
Right on.
I'm like, wait a minute. This conversation went from us talking about your first class to you buying a range. He's like, "Yeah. Oh, I work." And he didn't tell me what job he had, but he has a job that he makes a significant amount of money. And to be able to go halves on a multi-million-dollar range.
That's cool.
Like,
it's probably a good investment too.
I'm like, this is the cigar bar I need to go to, bro. Yeah, totally big investment. He was talking about how the place made money during COVID because everyone was running around buying firearms, obviously, during COVID. But post-COVID, you still got to be a good business person. The money tree doesn't deliver all the time. You actually have to have business practices and, do stuff that makes sense. And it's really hard sometimes because what do you call that? The money you make on selling new guns isn't that much. The markup isn't huge on new guns.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
Yeah, so you have to have a lot of other things going on, keep a bunch of balls in the air, be good at marketing. And I'm like, how is the range less than an hour from me? And I don't even know it exists. Like, what are you doing for mark? And this is me. Again, somebody that's into this, that's constantly looking for new ranges, that's into firearms, that has hosted events in Pennsylvania. And no one in my group, no one in my circle has gone, "Hey, an hour away from Trenton is a huge range in Pennsylvania." So that shows like something's wrong with your marketing, bro. If I haven't heard of it, not that I'm should know everything, but someone in my circle should have brought you up.
Yeah, well, unless it's so many of them that it's lost in the mix. But yeah, it doesn't sound like that's the case.
Yeah, not if it's like he says that has a shoot house in it, you know what I mean? It's like that's pretty significant. So, hey, listen, I hope it all works out, and I hope I'm able to host an event at this place. So I'm not going to say anything or try to jinx it because the sale has fallen through before. But if this works out, this will be awesome. I would look forward to hosting more events in PA so we don't have to worry about the restrictions, and I can introduce people to things like short barrel shotguns, short barrel rifles, full auto. And then you can point out the hypocrisy and the ridiculousness of some of these rulings, especially when one of my guys shows up, because my guys have done this in Pennsylvania just to prove a point, was bring a force reset trigger to our event in PA and shoot it beside a full auto and go, they passed laws on full auto machine guns in 1936, pretty much banned them for individual use in 1984, or at least created a registry that just made the price of them go through the roof where they're almost unobtainable for a regular person. Meanwhile, force reset triggers is 100% legal, and it has a faster rate of fire than the Tommy gun. And people are like, what sense does that make? I don't know. It's politicians helping.
Well, it's ineffective laws that aren't questioned, and they're written by people who didn't understand and weren't really trying to be effective. So,
Well, it gives me a talking point. It gives me a talking point, especially when I can put it beside a short barreled,
yeah,
a non-NFA item, which in New Jersey is a 26 inch, pretty much AR pistol with a vertical grip with a force reset trigger in it. And now I pretty much have an SBR full auto, but it's not, and it's 100% Jersey legal.
and a criminal could still go to their cartel that they're buying their meth or their cocaine or their heroin or their
Mhm.
fentanyl from, and say, "Hey, next time I order, send in a Draco, or send me a H&K MP5, and or
Or
send
they could
me."
just use all the machine guns the CIA provided in the 80s when they brought them in. I
But I'm
mean,
saying
that
like the
actually
bad guy,
happened.
but the bad guy, yeah,
Mhm.
is just gonna place an order for a machine gun and get a machine gun,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that would be the case whether or not machine guns were made illegal as hell, or they're just annoying to get, or they're expensive to get, or they were free on the street. Like it's never going to change in
It's
the
never
pro.
going to change. Or they could be one of the machine guns, anti-gun. Is a congressperson or senator? Leland Yee brought into California for the triads. Look it up. Remember him?
No, exactly. We don't
Yeah,
do enough of like FPC does. Actually, do you want to talk about FPC? Uh,
yeah,
I gotta end this before the top of the hour. But
yeah. Let's do it.
do you watch Fud? Shit, is it Fudbusters?
Fudbusters? No, I
Yeah,
don't. I mean, I know him. We're friends. Well, friendly, but
yeah.
yeah, I don't watch his stuff a lot.
I think he's in Florida now, so I don't know if he just is. I thought I was subscribed, so he either hasn't been doing the show or it hasn't been feeding me the show. One of the two. So it just came up
Shit, let me
maybe
see.
2 weeks
Yeah,
ago,
go ahead. Uh
and
huh.
then he goes. He said so. He did. I think he's had two shows since, but the one that I seen, he was talking about FPC, and then on X, somebody said something about FPC, and he chimed in with like essentially be skeptical where your money's going. So have you seen any of that?
No, I
Was
haven't heard any.
that T? Is that how you say it? So essentially, if I'm understanding it, FPC, because I do know from doing my studies that FPC went from about $1 million a year when they kind of were just doing their thing to $5 million a year when COVID and bullshit happened, and now they've dropped
Hmm.
it a little bit, but essentially they've inflated from 1 to 5 million. And he said in not so many words, but essentially he gets around to saying, he alludes to that they're involved in lawsuits and they're affiliated with the lawsuits, but they're not paying any lawyers. Like they're essentially just absorbing all that money into their own marketing. And it's like, if they're
Hmm.
with that, if they're with Second Amendment Foundation, they're the ones paying all the lawyers. They're there as I don't know what to call it, but essentially that's his gripe is that, and I'm assuming that's why he's not with them. Is
No,
he's
they
saying that
unsubscribed me.
who did?
They YouTube unsubscribed me from his channel.
Oh, okay. So maybe he fiddled with it, or maybe because that's what I'm wondering. Because if he's been doing stuff, I haven't seen it. So maybe that same thing happened to me. But anyway, I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting because whenever I first learned about FPC, I was doing
Hmm.
some kind of research on organizations because when I first learned about them, they weren't really doing anything. They were still in California, and
Yeah.
I knew that Second Amendment Foundation created them, and then they lost or they ended that relationship, and then now for a long time, FPC and SAF hated each other and never talked about each other. And there was a
Oh.
bunch of and I learned all this from the California Cal Guns Forum because there was a bunch of threads over there talking about how FPC was this or that. Like there's different opinions about them, but like they're definitely this or they're definitely that. They're definitely just here to make money, or they're definitely here to make waves. And second, that they're just here to make money because they're with the Second Amendment Foundation. They're only here to make money. And then other people are like,
Hmm.
no, they're the only ones fighting for our rights or whatever. So there's no, I know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's always going to be some controversy or what. But so anyway, so I did know that there was some controversy when FPC first started because of the way that they got launched by Second Amendment Foundation and the opinions that California has opinions of Second Amendment Foundation, I'm sure, because what did they do for me lately, right? Like, what does Second Amendment Foundation do in California? Question mark, you know. There's Cal Guns and there's the California Gun Owners Association, and then that created Gun Owners of America. Wait, California, whatever it's called. I think it's California Gun Owners, right? And then that created Gun Owners of America, and I suspect that's why they've had that kind of camaraderie with Gun Owners of America in California, because I don't know if SAF does anything in California or not, but I can't think of any major campaigns that they do there. So I think that there's probably some opinion of SAF from Californians, you know, about them because they're in California. And this was also years ago.
So what you call it? I don't know, because I'm friends with Adam Kraut. So Adam left East Coast and went and worked for FPC out there, and then he came back, and now he's SAF, which is great. He actually had someone call me from SAF and have a discussion about 3 weeks ago. So FPC just spoke to me on X day before yesterday about coming to my events.
I saw that. And then Alicia Boomstick says, "What are you doing in Colorado?" And I wanted so bad to say, well, you got $15 million a year going to Colorado. Like, that's why nobody goes to Colorado. Like, fuck that. We all know who that organization is that brings in $15 million a year. And why would anybody touch Colorado when that much money is just being thrown into a black hole there? You're not going to go put the rest of the country's money over there.
Yeah, so listen, she has her thing. She's in the fight.
Oh, I know.
I'm not
talking about her. I'm talking about the organization over there. But I don't know if she must be aware of it, but I don't know where she is fond with them or what.
How do I say? Yeah, we had this discussion, her and I, about, you know, different things about what's going on, and she's just in the fight doing what she needs to do for the fight, and I'm cool with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, it's the clicks.
That's what we need more than anything, in my opinion.
Yeah, so it's a click, it's the work, and she's like, I'm about doing the work, and I'm just going to work with people. But she also is going to call out people, and I'm like, I can't be mad at you. Do what you need to do. Yeah. Everybody doesn't do what I do. Also, I was talking to Gio.
Everybody puts their heads down and doesn't say shit about it, and that's how they're able to fester $15 million, and nobody says anything because everybody just puts their heads down. Yeah.
So my whole thing is that I had a conversation with somebody. Yeah, I'm leaving it at that. Somebody almost said something about calling someone else out about the work they're doing or their reputation or whatever. And I'm like, that's on you. That's not how I roll, because if I'm going to lift my head up and start pointing out people that are wasting time or making this about them, I'm not putting my head down and getting work done. And now I'm directing all kinds of energy to this person who I don't think is doing anything. I'm like, why don't I just do something? So if you're the type of person who wants to call people out and use your energy on that, do it. We need that too. But I'm over here doing this, trying to find new ranges to host events at, trying to find, suppliers and stuff. Yeah, I'm aware of what's going on in some cases. Other cases I actively ignore. I'm doing work. I'm doing work. Good. Call them out. Call them out. People can call me out. They can ask me questions and I'll answer them. You know what I mean? I have no shame in my game. That I'm broke, bitch. There's nothing else happening. I need all the help I can get. There's no redirecting of funds. $185 pizza bill Thursday tells you there is no redirecting of funds. Which was awesome, by the way. We had one pizza too much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had one pie that I gave to one of my guys so he could take home to his kid. So I got the pizza math pretty right. One person, two people didn't show up out of those tickets, but other people did, and just some guys didn't eat. So we were 8 slices too many, which I think is pretty good pizza math.
Yeah. Well, it's always better to be over than under.
Yeah, hey, I really hated that. That's why I wait until I'm the last person to eat, just because if we're under, I've had that happen once.
Oh, speaking of under, we'll be a little bit over 3 hours, I guess, but I don't think anybody cares. This gets a lot of views on the podcast, so thanks to everybody who listens to this on the, I don't want to call it the rewind, but we're recording this on whatever Saturday this is. I guess it's the weekend before goals, but thanks to everybody who's listening out there and the people that are joining us live. But dang, I was trying to do a swift outro there about going over, and now I forgot. I've been sitting over here looking at a map. I lost train of thought. But that's what happens when we're 3 hours in. No, I lost it. Let's see. Gun Owners of California. Thank you. I knew it had more to do with Gun Owners of America than California Gun Owners. Actually, California Gun Owners might be a separate organization, so I didn't mean to conflate them. I was talking about Gun Owners of California. Because aren't they the one? I think they're the ones that run Cal Guns.
Oh, I don't know. Again, sometimes I don't really get embarrassed, but my knowledge gap of the inner workings of this stuff, people are like, oh, you didn't know that?
No, how can you know? You mean, unless you're studying this shit. I just happen to try to put together that, resource, so I just dig into some of this stuff, and some of it gets retained. But yeah, that's the problem.
You know so-and-so hates so-and-so? No.
Well, that part's tough to know, but it's just the stuff about, like, what year was this, or who was the senator that was for or against this. Like, you kind of, some people can remember that shit because they got big brains to photographic memories or whatever. I'm not, so that's why I write everything down, and so I started putting the Minuteman together so that we wouldn't have to. We had a place we know we can get the information quick, so I don't have to keep it in my head, and just to clarify and stuff. But that's the thing. That's one of the things we're lacking, is that, common understanding. We don't even have a common agreement on what's a good caliber or what's a good method of carry, or, anything. And we shouldn't. There is no one, obviously. But because of that, because we're so individual, it's just a matter of harnessing that individuality instead of exploiting the little elements of it that people have found little spots to sit in the bureaucracy. I mean, I get mad at bureaucracy because I remember, I don't know, probably about 4 different ways I've worked for the government over my lifespan. And every time it was either in it or watching it or being, next to it, it's just annoying because there's some people that figure out ways that they can never get fired, and they just sit there and they're like, these just annoying people. Either they're, I guess you don't realize the ones, when you're there, you see the ones that aren't even doing anything, the ones that are like little spiders and cobwebs that are just drawing a paycheck and they don't do nothing, and it's just annoying, but they don't do nothing, so nobody really cares about them. But then there's the ones that want to hold power over everybody. Like, they get into a position of authority and then they start wielding it all over the place. And if that's somebody handing out permits, or if it's somebody handing out rank, or if it's somebody handing out, paychecks or something, or not paychecks, but like some kind of funding, then that's frustrating. So anyway, so that's the stuff that we just have to realize is there, right? And not get frustrated and knocked out by it, but just figure out strategies to get through it. I don't know. I got lost on the topics there too. Thanks to everybody for joining, though, and for being part of the show. Give us some feedback if you'd rather we go on topic. This is called Ask Gun Questions. We kind of fart around. It's episode 95, I think, right? Or something, 96. We've been doing this for a while. Obviously, if one of us is gone for the weekend or something happens, it's not like we do this every single weekend, but it's been a lot of fun. And we do tend to ramble because we've been doing this for a while. We're obviously comfortable chatting, and we know each other's little things to chat about. But it's also an opportunity to kind of catch up, because I think I probably spend a little bit more time on X. Well, I know I spend more time on X. I probably spend a little bit more time paying attention to the shit on X.
Yeah.
When I go to Instagram, I follow more like dumb stuff. Like I don't follow anything that's political too much on Instagram. Every once in a while I'll see something, but I finally figured out, I'm so happy on Instagram. I think I just got so frustrated because every other thing I look at is Mickey Mouse or Disneyland. And it's not that I hate Disneyland, but I definitely hate Disneyland now because of they force it on me on Instagram so much. So at the bottom, when you say, I don't want to see this account anymore, that's what I usually do. As soon as I see something Disneyland, like, don't show me this account, like ban this account. It'll just show me more Disneyland because it took me 5 minutes to delete, 5 seconds to delete that or something. I figured out if you put the keyword in there, Disney, Disneyland, and I'm going to put Mickey in there because now they're telling me about, and then D23. I don't know if you get this kind of bombardment or not, but I put in all those filters. And it's like, poof, Instagram is fun again. Like now it's just, and now I know I can filter stuff out that quick, but there's no Disney at all. Like I don't even see nothing Disney. And it was just, it wasn't even like controversy. It was just people going to Disney. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I've never gone to Disney. I'm never going to Disney. Like, why do you keep feeding me this Disney shit? And I think it's just because I got stuck in some logarithm where, it takes me too long to delete it. So they think I like it or something.
Oh, maybe you like one of Cheryl Todd's posts. She's a Disney psycho.
I know she really likes Disney, and it must have been who touched me because I don't think I know anybody else who's into it as much or at all. But she hasn't posted much, and she certainly hasn't posted anything from Disney that I've seen. And but anyway, yeah. However, I got it. I figured out how to delete it or how to filter it. So Instagram. Yeah. A little bit better, but anyway, I don't really use Instagram for politics, but I don't know. I don't say I enjoy X, but I use X. It is hanky. I don't know what the word is. Like I don't believe it's not filtered, right? It's definitely some robot.
Oh,
that's trying to give me what I want, but how can it know what I want? And what do I do? I have to. I think I'm paying for it now. So I can delete stuff, but I still have to, there's 2 levels and you can't delete stuff as much until you're at that other level, which is frustrating. But anyway, so I still get quite a bit of like Boomstick, she'll be posting about this or that or the other thing. And a lot of times it's a political thing. So now I'm adjacent to political and now I know some political thing happened in Colorado. You'll post something about something and now I'll know that happened, so that's essentially how I use X. Oh. And then every once in a while, John Richardson or somebody will post one of their blogs or something interesting, and I'll go look and go, damn it, John! Like, what the hell? That was a total red herring or like waste of time or whatever. Or I'll be like, all right,
definitely try to get John's. I try to get John's stuff out there. Repost Maj. I repost Maj Torre stuff and Professor Yamati. I caught something of his. I reposted. Like I try to at least create some content if it's nothing but sharing somebody else's content, because I don't know where these circles overlap. And maybe you'll just be finding out about Moms at Arms for the first time because of a post I posted. And now you're following them. And I think that's great.
Heck yeah. I think that's
it's hilarious though.
Potential of X. Yep. I don't think we can do that on Instagram anymore, but on X it's still growing or it's got the potential.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do. And also I have like people that follow me, like I got Mr. Guns and Gear and Military Arms Channel following me now. I have Spike Cohen, who ran for vice president for the Libertarian Party. He follows me now. So I think those are good things. You know what I mean? Because now when I make that circle or people looking at who's following me, and of course I have the LGBT and gay community following me, which also led to a weird algorithm that keeps popping up every now and again on IG. Not cool. But it's fine. You know what I mean? It's who I appeal to, because I'm trying to appeal to all people, because this is a human right. So I'm not turned off by any of it, except the kind of weird stuff. I don't need to know about trans OnlyFans. I'll just put that out there. No. And somehow that pops up in my algorithm every while, and I can't fucking, what do you call it? Scroll past that fast enough.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And that's something that it's difficult, like, unless it comes up like this where we're just kind of blabbing, it's not something that it's worth mentioning. So it's going to be like that silent,
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, It's not just it's any OnlyFans. It's any OnlyFans, but this was one I didn't know existed. I don't want anyone's OnlyFans. I don't want booty shaking on my damn thing.
Yeah, no
Sorry. My and yes, they filter the algorithm because my For You page should be nothing but guns and food. I mean, Second Amendment, firearms related, because the Firearms Gun and Gear Review podcast, which I'm on every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Gun and Gear Review podcast channel, and also on Firearms Radio Network. And I post stuff about that. I post firearms. I post Second Amendment, and I like watching food videos. And when I make my posts, I usually show food when I talk about what's on the Gun and Gear Review podcast, mainly because it's kind of fun now. I don't really think it changed the algorithm, and I don't think more people are seeing it, but it's just fun now. So that's what I do. But that should be my For You page, not what they have on it. There's not one firearm that comes up on my For You page or firearms company. How is that? No Second Amendment advocate, no nothing. It's like Olympics and booty shaking.
Yeah.
And I'm
every
like,
once in a while, like a car or just like
No.
generic, like a guy might like this type of shit.
Nope. Like if I scroll through the whole thing, I'm like, if my wife looked at this, she'd go, "What are you looking at?" And I'm like, "Here, this is what I actually look at." Like when I look at subscribed. When you look at your subscribe, it's no booty shaking.
Yeah, it's everybody like you're saying, like Rebecca Schmoy and like Gun of California or whatever, and like every once in a while somebody will put like a meme or something that's got something, but for the most part, it's all boring ass Second Amendment shit on my gun one.
Yep.
But if you go to,
I
like,
haven't seen.
you're like,
go ahead.
let me show you that person's page, and then you go to the little magnifying glass or question mark or whatever it is, and you're gonna like type in their name. It's like 1,000 chicks in bikinis, and like I say, for me it'll be a car, maybe a ski boat, like a boat, and I'm like, yeah, real good. In Arizona, I'm getting boats. I can see the girls. Okay, I'm a guy, so you're giving me girls. But
I haven't seen Hold My Guns in a minute. I haven't seen Sarah's post in a while. I don't know what happened or why I haven't, because she's a friend of mine. I mean, we actually talk. She sends me messages, and now I'm not even finding her page on my stuff. Like what the hell's happening? And yes, they're limiting us. They're targeting us. I think they do it to everybody. I do follow a lady who's she did a body transformation, and now she does more pictures, and she does have OnlyFans. Maybe that's why that rabbit hole showed up, but that's not how she started. But she's talking about how she's being limited. She showed herself in a bathing suit, and this is an attractive one piece, but the back was a thong. Facebook hit her up and pulled the picture and said it violated it because she was nude, and it was a one-piece bathing suit. And she was like, "This is continually happening." So I think they're messing with everyone. I don't know what AI they're using, but the AI must suck to ban us and to shuffle us around.
Well, I definitely that would be a whole other conversation. But yeah, there's also massive companies with tons of people joining every day and messing things up and doing things where like you say, the AI sees it wrong, and they just don't have the resources, or they haven't devoted the resources to trying to catch the people that get caught in the mix versus I mean, back in the day, it was like something like, let's just say 1 million spam accounts every day that they got to delete. So, if they're deleting 1 million accounts, that's not, nobody's doing that. That's like you say, some AI is kind of evaluating these accounts and their behavior. So some people are going to get knocked off and go, hey, what the fuck? And, once they figure out like, oh, you're behaving like a bot, then they might go, oh, okay, I'll just behave differently next time I set it up. But again, I don't know how their decision-making process is, but it's essentially that. Anyway.
All right. Yeah, it's time to get out of here. I just discovered somebody donated me. I just rediscovered 2 boxes of 357 SIG. I'm like, I hate you people, because you know what that means. There's a Glock 35 in my future. Thanks a lot, assholes.
You can't get a barrel? Try getting a barrel?
Oh, I got to get a 40 caliber Glock too.
Okay, you need a bigger gun. Okay. Oh, there could be
All right,
worse.
man. I appreciate it. What's up?
Yeah, thanks for. I was saying there could be worse dilemmas to be in, but yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. Versyshoot.com. Give us a follow over at Simon Says Train on Instagram, Simon Says Train on Facebook. Second for everyone on Facebook. Second, the number 2 for everyone on X, and Tony Simon on Facebook. If you want to follow me, if you want to donate, we have all kinds of stuff you can donate. You can do that initially from diversityshoot.com. And if you want to do Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal, we take all of that. So thank you very much. If you want to donate, I need all the help I can get. So appreciate you having me on. I'm glad you guys like the show. It's just, two gun nerds that are also activists talking about stuff.
So we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Have a good trip to Gold. Have a good event.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm on the diversity panel. Yehuda Reamer already called me because he's on it. So we've made jokes back and forth. That's going to be fun with him and I because, well, him and I together are a problem always if it's just him and I sitting at a table together. And then I'm on the veterans panel with that dude Crispy, Iraqi veteran, and Iraqi veteran 8888, if you don't know, and Clint Morgan, who used to be with Classic Firearms. He's
Ghost.
hosting that. Oh, and Ghost, yeah, definitely Ghost is going to be there too. So it's hilarious because I only know I don't know Crispy personally, but everybody else I do know.
Right on, man. Have a great trip, and we'll chat. We'll do an after action then in a couple of weeks.
Cool, no problem. See you guys. Appreciate it.